Chapter 939. Lu Li once gave an order that civilians of the Asmodeans were not to be tortured to death or to commit crimes that were worse than beasts. Back then, Lu Xingyang was in charge of the Asmodeans. Lu Xingyang took it seriously and issued some military rules. Back then, the Asmodeans were still a deterrent. Nobody dared to act rashly. Later on, Lu Xingyang focused on conquering the feather race. Therefore, he didn't pay much attention to the Asmodeans. Later on, Lu Xingyang and the others were trapped at the feather race. Lu Li went to the feather land of the west. All the humans' attention was on the feather land of the west. The ocean land of the east was left unsupervised. The Asmodeans and humans were sworn enemies. Back in the days, the human race was almost wiped out by the Asmodean Lord. If the Asmodean Lord had breached the demon-slaying city, the human race would have faced a miserable end. Many human warriors would be killed, civilians would be enslaved, and human girls would be abused and killed by the Asmodeans. Therefore, the hatred between humans and Asmodeans ran deep. Over the years, many had died in the hands of the Asmodeans. Once there was no one to supervise them, the troops here naturally began to vent their anger. At first, they were just beating and scolding. Then, they began to abuse. Gradually, some Asmodeans were killed. There were 3 people in charge of the Asmodeans. One was a patriarch of the Lu family, one was a patriarch of the Jiang family, and the last one was a patriarch of the demon-slaying hall. The interests of the ocean land of the east were divided between the Lu family, the Jiang family, and the demon-slaying hall. The Lu family had the largest share. The 3 of them had received news that some Asmodeans were being abused, but they didn't pay much attention. First of all, the Asmodeans were mortal enemies. Killing one Asmodean meant one less Asmodeans. Even if all the Asmodeans were wiped out, the 3 of them wouldn't care. Instead, they would think there would be no future trouble. The Asmodeans were insidious, cunning, and vicious. Such a race should have been wiped out a long time ago. What was more, with so many warriors stationed here, far away from the prosperity of the Central Plains, the Asmodeans were lonely. The 3 of them could understand the warriors' resentment. Therefore, they didn't take it seriously and left it alone. As soon as the 3 of them left, things went out of control. Also, some disciples of the Lu family were from a branch of the Lu family. To them, the Lu family was the most powerful family, and they were lords, the most honorable people in the Heaven Reverse universe. Naturally, the Lu family disciples wanted to enjoy themselves. Therefore, their subordinates sent over some Asmodean beauties. Soon, the eastern land of oceans went out of control, which was what Lu Li and the others saw. The small city had been tidied up. But Lu Li was afraid that Jiang Qiling and the others would go in and see something disgusting. So, he insisted on camping outside the city. For the past couple of days, Lu Li had been taking the 3 of them on foot. There were some special sceneries nearby, which made the 3 of them feel better. On the afternoon of the 3rd day, the highest commander of the eastern land of oceans, the 3 patriarchs, came. Patriarch Sun came early to send a message, but Lu Li did not answer. He told the 3 patriarchs to wait in the city. At dusk, Lu Li took the 3 of them into the city. The inside of the city had been completely refurbished, and even the streets had been cleaned. There were soldiers patrolling the streets in an orderly manner, and it looked no different from a human city. The 3 commanders of the eastern land of oceans were waiting at the plaza. Behind them were more than 100 people. Lu Li found them familiar. Some of them were disciples from a branch of the Lu family. Master Li, a patriarch of the Lu family, was guarding here, Lu Tianren. Even though he was only at the peak of the human sovereign realm, he was one of the patriarchs of the Lu family. Who dared to belittle him? Lu Tianren was of the same generation as Lu Li's grandpa, but he was not of the same bloodline as Lu Xingyang. Lu Tianren greeted Lu Li from the distance with a smile. "Why didn't you tell me you were coming? I could have brought someone to welcome you earlier." "Master Li Linger, nice to meet you." The patriarch of the Jiang family was at the peak of the human sovereign realm, Jiang Hongyu. He was Jiang Qiling's uncle. He smiled at Lu Li and Jiang Qiling. He even winked at Jiang Qiling. Grand Master. The other patriarch was an old man at the Earth Immortal Realm. He was one of the patriarchs of the demon-slaying Hall and the only Earth Immortal Realm warrior at the eastern land of oceans. After all, there were no more powerful Asmodeans here. One Earth Immortal Realm warrior was enough. Luli put on a cold face. He did not greet the three. He looked at the more than 100 warriors behind them and said coldly, "Those of you who have tortured and killed Asmodean civilians, step to the left. Those who have raped Asmodean females, step to the right. I will give you one chance. If I find out that you have done something wrong, not only will you die, but your entire families will be implicated." Swish, 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 everyone was taken aback. The smiles on Lu Tianren and Jiang Hongyu's faces froze. They were embarrassed. Lu Tianren walked over to Lu Li and said, "Young Master Li, it is not a big deal. You don't have to do this. Not a big deal?" Lu Li put on a mocking smile. He glanced at the group and said, "Maybe, as far as you are concerned, the Asmodeans are the mortal enemies of the human race, and all Asmodeans should be cut into pieces and exterminated. To you, the Asmodeans are alien races with evil intentions. That is why you can kill them without seeing them as human beings. You can rape them at will. Eh?" Lu Li emphasized the last word, which made the group pale in fright. They did not even dare to breathe loudly. Nobody dared to say a word. That being said, some of them did not take Lu Li's words seriously, as if the Asmodeans should be cut into pieces and they should not be treated as human beings. "Everything has a soul," Lu Li said. "What is the biggest difference between humans and wild beasts? That is, humans have souls, wisdom, civilization, morality, and a sense of propriety, justice, honor, and shame. If, as a human being, you eat raw meat and drink blood like wild beasts, wear no clothes, and kill it like wild beasts, are you still human? Humans are just a race. In the eyes of the Asmodeans, we are no different from the feather race, the voodoo race, and the mammoth race. In other words, humans are not noble. Just like the other races, we are equal. You can also say that all the ancient races can actually be called the human race, because these ancient races are the same as the human race. They all have intelligence, each have their own civilization, and understand propriety, justice, honor, and shame. There is no justice or evil in the war between the races because everyone is just from each other's point of view. In ancient times, the human race was weak, and there were tens of thousands of races. At that time, the human race was often bullied, killed, and humiliated. But this was very normal because the human race was too weak and the ancient races were too strong. Later on, humans rose. Emperor of Heaven Reverse swept across the Heaven Reverse universe. We humans stood at the peak of the Heaven Reverse universe and killed many ancient races. We chased the Asmodeans, feather race, barbarian race, and the voodoo race to those barren lands. From a standpoint of the 4 alien races and many other ancient races, we humans are evil, or even evil. We are the devils. Lu Li paused for a moment. He glanced at the others again and continued, "What do you think you and your warriors did at the ocean land of the east look like to the Asmodean civilians? Didn't they look like demons? Didn't they look like devils? When 2 races are at war, it is the same as when 2 families are at war. There is nothing wrong with killing the opposing warriors. But if you want to kill the defenseless civilians and rape Asmodean girls, do you think you are still human? Do you have any humanity? If you don't even have humanity, then what is the difference between you and demons?" Towards the end, Lu Li's tone became extremely cold, like an unsheathed saber. Many people were afraid to stand still. He looked around and said, "Since you have become demons, how about I send you to hell? What do you think?" Chapter 940. In the old days, Lu Li's killing intent was already horrifying. Later, when he became the Grand Master of the demon-slaying Hall and the leader of the human race, he became even more intimidating. Now that he was angry, everyone felt like a mountain was pressing down on them. Many of them could not breathe. Lu Tianren wanted to say something, but he stopped after hearing Lu Li's words. He was of the same generation as Lu Li's grandpa, but he was not close to Lu Li. Lu Li had indirectly killed Lu Zhongtan. Why would Lu Li care about Lu Tianren's kinship? Lu Li's cold voice came again. This is the last chance. Those that have tortured and killed Asmodeans, go to the left. Those that have raped Asmodean girls, go to the right. Those that have done both, come to the front. This time, no one dared to hesitate. For disciples of the Lu clan stood up and walked forward. The four of them knelt on one knee and lowered their heads to beg for forgiveness. Young Master Li, we are guilty. We have let you down. Lu Li looked at the four, but said nothing. He turned to the others. Some Jiang family disciples looked at Jiang Qiling with pity, hoping that she would say something to comfort them. But Jiang Qiling pretended not to see that. They made up their minds and stepped forward. They went to the left, right, and front respectively. They all knelt in silence, saying nothing. More people stepped forward one after another. They either stood on the left or the right. Most of them stood in the front. In the end, only a dozen of the more than 100 were still standing there. The rest were standing in the other three groups. At the front, there were at least 60. Lu Li's face was clouded over. So many generals and supervisors had committed crimes. How could the subordinates obey the law when the leaders were not upright? Lu Li turned to Lu Tianren, Zhang Hongyu, and the Earth Immortal Realm warriors of the Demon-Slaying Hall, and said coldly, "What about the three of you? Take a stand as well." We, Lu Tianren, and Zhang Hongyu's expressions were clouded. Only the patriarch of the Demon-Slaying Hall remained calm. Clearly, he had a clear conscience. I will give you only one chance. Don't take my words for granted. If I want to kill someone, nobody can stop me. Lu Li said, filled with killing intent. The cold blade saber appeared in his hand. All of a sudden, the temperature dropped. Jiang Hongyu looked at Jiang Qiling pleadingly. After all, he was Jiang Qiling's uncle. If he was punished this time, how would he be able to raise his head in the future? If this matter were to spread, the prestige of the Jiang family would be greatly reduced. Don't look at me. It's useless to look at me. Finally, Jiang Qiling said in a cold tone, even if my father were here, I would not plead for Lu Li as long as it is his decision, let alone you. Jiang Hongyu's face turned pale. He made up his mind and walked towards Lu Li. In the end, he knelt down in shame. Sigh, Lu Tianren sighed. He walked to the left, dropped to one knee, and allowed Lu Li to deal with him. Elder son, Lu Li yelled and ordered, cut off all the limbs of those in front. Let the demon-slaying hall bring them back. Tell the families, these people will never be employed again. Swish, 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 Jiang Hongyu and the others who were kneeling in front of Lu Li trembled. Fear was written all over their faces. Chop off his limbs? What kind of pain was that? Losing limbs was a physical pain. If Lu Li sent a message to the families, he would ruin their future, never to be employed again. None of the families dared to disobey Lu Li. From then on, they would no longer be able to take up any positions in their families, nor would they have any power. They would not be able to rely on their family resources or borrow the strength of their families. Young Master Li, please forgive us. Young Master Li, please spare our lives. Jiang Hongyu cried out at once. He kept kowtowing and begging for mercy. The others followed suit. Lu Li did not look at them. He took out Jiang Qiling by Qiu Shue and by Xia Shuang in the wicked bead. Then, he turned to Patriarch Sun, who sighed. He took out a saber and was the first to attack Jiang Hongyu. What? Out of instinct, Jiang Hongyu tried to dodge. However, he was only at the peak of the human sovereign realm, while Patriarch Sun was at the later stage of the Earth Immortal Realm. All Jiang Hongyu saw was a flash of saber light, and his limbs were cut off. Whoosh, whoosh, the other four elders flashed and surrounded the group of people. One of the elders said with a murderous aura, "Who dares to move? Kill them all." Some of the others wanted to run away or hide in fear. But now, none of them dared to move. They could only watch as Patriarch Sun hacked at them one by one. Not long afterward, the ground was covered with broken limbs. Blood was spilling out. Dozens of people were rolling around on the ground, screaming in pain. The warriors at the plaza were frightened. Those on the right cut off their legs. Send them back to their families and never hire them again. Those on the left, cut off their hands and send them back to their families. We will deal with them according to the circumstances. Luli gave 2 orders. Patriarch's son took action again. More and more limbs were cut off. More than 100 people were howling in pain. It was a tragic sight. Luli was emotionless, cold-blooded to the extreme. He glanced over to the warriors in the distance and said emotionlessly, "Remember this. Killing civilians and raping girls is something only scumbags will do. It will cloud your mind and affect your cultivation as warriors. If a martial artist only knows how to bully the weak and only know how to enjoy life, then they will never have high achievements in this life. Without a firm heart, a heart that can resist all kinds of temptations, a heart that can abide by one's own heart, how can you rise to the top?" With that said, Luli turned to the patriarch guarding the demon-slaying hall and said, "You will take care of the rest. Send my words out. If something like this happens again in the future, I, Luli, will not show mercy." "Yes, Grandmaster." The patriarch of the demon-slaying hall bowed. Luli left with Patriarch's son and the others. They entered the teleportation formation and headed to the north. The patriarch of the demon-slaying hall shouted, "Treat everyone first. Then send them to the demon-slaying hall and send them to Patriarch Jiang Tianshan. Tell him what Grandmaster said. Also, report this to Patriarch of Law Enforcement at once." Patriarch of Law Enforcement? Lu Tianren and Zhang Hongyu had lost all hope. Once Patriarch of Law Enforcement was informed, they would be doomed. They might be imprisoned for the rest of their lives, not to mention that they would never be able to rise again. Buzzing, Luli teleported for over 100 times. When he arrived at the small world at the north, he let Jiang Qiling and the others out. He did not go in rashly. Instead, he planned to take a break and enter the small world when his energy, qi, and spirit were at the peak. Darling, even though Bai Qiuxue did not see the last scene, she could guess what happened next. Luli was truly enraged. He would not let it go so easily. She bit her lips and said, "Are you being too harsh? Will it affect your reputation? After all, you are the alien races. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you." Luli said with a straight face, "Actually, many of us are kind when we are young. We abhor evil and loathsome bad guys. But as time goes by, we are tainted by society. Often, we will become the people we hated." Chapter 941. Humanity. That was what Luli thought was important. Luli believed that humanity was the reason why humans were humans. If you don't even have humanity, then you can't be called a human. Luli was so cruel for 2 reasons. First of all, he felt it was too cruel to treat civilians and females of the Asmodeans. More importantly, he wanted to preserve the best of humanity for humans. He could not allow humans to become cruel and evil and forget the truth, kindness, and beauty. Think about it. Humans have been abusing the Asmodeans and the Feather race for years. They have been abusing the other races. Gradually, humans would change. They would think it was a matter of course. Maybe in decades, the entire human race would change completely. By then, would humans still be human? In the future, the human race would become like wild beasts, unreasonable, bloodthirsty, murderous, and lustful. That kind of human race wouldn't even need the other races to be destroyed. They themselves would be destroyed. That was not what Luli wanted to see. That was why he used his absolute authority to make an example out of others. He used some disciples of the Lu family and the Jiang family to teach the world a lesson. This was unacceptable. At least, as long as Luli was alive, anyone who dared to mess around would have to face serious consequences. Darling, you are right. When Luli explained in detail, Bai Xiaoshuang was the first to clap her hands and praise him. She didn't really understand, but she thought Luli was doing the right thing. Grandmaster, you have great foresight and you are benevolent and righteous. We admire you. Patriarch's son and the others understood. They bowed to Luli. Everyone looked solemn and secretly rejoiced. If Luli hadn't realized this, there would have been serious problems in the long run. Yes, Jiang Qiling and Bai Qiuxue had thought it through. They looked at each other, and their eyes glowed. They looked at Lu Li in a different light. Lu Li was young, but he could think so far ahead. They admired and worshipped him. Let's go. Let's go and meet this beast god. Lu Li took a break and put the matter of the eastern land of oceans aside. He waved to Patriarch Sun and the others. The five of them flew to a mountain in the distance. There was a huge cave surrounded by mist. Inside the cave was a teleportation portal connected to the underworld realm. Lu Li did not want to put the three girls into the wicked bead. He had promised to show them around. It was just a beast god. Lu Li was not worried. Whoosh, 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 inside the cave, Patriarch Sun and the others explored the way. They all had jade talismans in their hands, so they could warn Lu Li at any time. Wow, wow, the cave was filled with white fog, and the scenery was faintly discernible. Moreover, they were going to kill the beast deity, and it was very thrilling. Bai Xiaoshuang was so excited that she screamed along the way, and her pretty face was flushed. All right, Xuaner, don't make a fuss. You'll disturb our husband. Bai Qiuxue held Bai Xiaoshuang's hand and said with a smile. Bai Qiuxue was only at the middle stage of the human sovereign realm, and her enchantment had not reached the third level, so her combat ability was not strong. This time, her opponent was the beast god, so she did not dare to be careless. Little White. Lu Li woke up Little White that was sleeping in the wicked bead. He asked Little White to stand on Bai Xiaoshuang's shoulder and said, "Protect Shuang and the others. Later, there will be a big guy. I will have to deal with it." Squeak, squeak, Little White stood on Bai Xiaoshuang's shoulder, not worried at all. Among the three ladies, Little White was the closest to Bai Xiaoshuang. Back in the days, Lu Li often left Little White in the deserted world to keep Bai Xiaoshuang company. How Little White is awesome. Bai Xiaoshuang liked Little White. She patted its head, which made Little White even more arrogant. Let's go. Patriarch Sun and the others had arrived at the exit. Lu Li let his three wives in and nodded to Patriarch Sunday. The five of them went in one by one to explore the way. A moment later, a jade talisman glowed in Lu Li's hand. He nodded and said, "It's safe. Let's go." Bai Xiaoshuang and the twins were even more excited. Lu Li stepped into the entrance with them. After a glare, the three of them found themselves in a strange world. This small world was large, which could be seen from the Xianqi in heaven and earth. The Xianqi here was richer than in the deserted world. Theoretically speaking, this small world should be larger than the deserted world. The place where they appeared was a canyon between two small mountains. What they saw was a huge mountain. There were many rivers and waterfalls on the mountain. As far as the eye could see, the small rivers were densely packed like a spider's web. Small waterfalls were everywhere. The view was breathtaking. There were no Xian beasts or ferocious beasts nearby, but there were some strange fish and jellyfish in the rivers. The trees and flowers here were lush, and the air was fresh. Whoosh, Patriarch Sun and the twins flew up and stood in front of Lu Li. Patriarch Sun cupped his fists and said, "There is no danger nearby. Brother, who has gone to investigate? Do you have a map and information about the underworld realm?" Lu Li asked. Patriarch Sun shook his head and said, "No. According to the information, the underworld realm is full of rivers. There is no sense of direction. There are no humans, Asmodeans, or ancient races living here. But there are many Xian beasts of all kinds, especially in the water. That beast god is a Xian beast in the water. It lives in the largest river. But last time, the patriarchs that came here were all wounded and forced to retreat before they could see the beast god. Okay. Let's go." Lu Li was confident. He took out his bead of life and let the three girls stand in it. Then, he flew out at a moderate speed. He took out a jade talisman and threw it into the mountain. In this way, he could sense the jade talisman when he turned around and find the way out. There are rivers everywhere. Flying out of the valley, Lu Li and the others saw rivers everywhere. Like a broken mirror, the rivers crisscrossed each other like a spider's web. Bang, bang, bang. From a distance came some noises of explosion. Lu Li checked with psychic power and found the other two patriarchs were fighting Xian beasts. Many Xian beasts dashed out from a river and swarmed toward the two patriarchs. Wow, what Xian beasts are they? They're so beautiful. Bai Xiaoshuang's realm was not high, but she was at the middle stage of the noble lord realm. She could use psychic power to see what was going on. She was not nervous to see so many Xian beasts attacking the two patriarchs. Instead, she was excited. From a river in the distance, many beautiful fishes dashed out. Those fishes all had wings, and their bodies were colorful. They shot out water arrows from their mouths. The water arrows were colorful as well. At least tens of thousands of fishes had come out. The scene was stunning and spectacular from a distance. However, the level of these small fishes was not high. They should be at most at the level of 4th or 5th rank Xian beasts. The two elders were earth immortals. Naturally, these small fishes posed no threat to them. With a casual sweep, hundreds of small fishes were smashed into pieces. Splash. Chapter 942. Rivers were everywhere in the underworld realm, and they were all connected. Naturally, the fight between two patriarchs and the small fish had alarmed the powerful Xian beasts nearby. At the moment, several rivers were surging. At least dozens of powerful Xian beasts had come. Of course, the powerful Xian beasts here were only relative to the small fish. For Patriarch Sun and the others, these Xian beasts were not enough. Bang! From a river, a huge sea snake broke out of the water. Its body was covered with scales that were as dark as iron. Its tail was like a whip, trying to smash Patriarch Sun away. Piss off! Patriarch Sun took out a huge axe. He didn't use any powerful, profound meaning. He swung the axe at the snake's tail. With a spark, some scales fell off. The snake's tail was smashed away. The snake turned around in midair and then dived back into the river. Swish, swish, the water in a river on the right suddenly began to swirl. Then it turned into a water dragon and dashed toward another patriarch. Child's play. This patriarch made a heavy move. He generated a dark hand and smashed at the water dragon. The water dragon collapsed at once. Water splashed everywhere. The dark hand continued to smash downward. Bang! The river nearby sank down. A deep whirlpool appeared. Then, the river on both sides began to surge, stirring up huge waves. Some low-level Xian beasts in the river were killed. A huge jellyfish floated up and was smashed. Bang, 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 the other patriarchs took actions. They used all kinds of profound meanings, bloodline skills, and secret skills. The river was smashed, and many Xian beasts were killed. But more Xian beasts were swarming over from all sides. There seemed to be no end to them. Nice, nice. Bai Xiaoshuang clapped her hands. She rarely saw a fight of this level. There were so many Xian beasts. It was a lively scene. She pulled Lu Li's hand and pointed to the distance, chattering. Ha. Lu Li smiled. He used psychic power to check the surroundings in case the powerful Xian beast would sneak up on him. After a moment, a glint of coldness rose in his eyes. He turned to a river and said to Little White, "Little White, there is an eel trying to sneak up on us. Go and deal with it." Squeak, squeak, the mane on White E's head immediately stood up. A cold light flashed in its small eyes, and its body shot down like lightning towards the river below. Hearing Lu Li's words, Jiang Qiling and Bai Qiushua looked down at once and found the eel hiding there. That water eel actually knew how to conceal itself. If one didn't look carefully, they wouldn't have noticed it at all. Whoosh! As soon as Little White rushed down, the white water eel moved. The 6 horns on its head lit up, and white lightning shot out, trying to electrocute Little White. Chi! Little White was struck by a few bolts of lightning, and its small body stopped moving. It trembled slightly on the spot, but its small eyes were shining brightly. Husband, will Xiao Bai be all right? Bai Xiaoshuang asked nervously when she saw Xiao Bai not moving. Ha! Lu Li laughed. If it was some other attack, it might have some effect on Little White. Lightning? For Little White, it was nourishment. Little White didn't move because it wanted to absorb more lightning. In other words, it was eating. Ever since Lu Li saw that the water eel's attack was lightning, he stopped watching. He used psychic power to check other places. After a while, he said, Let's end this soon. The river here is too small. I don't think there are any powerful Xian beasts. The beast kings and beast gods are too big. I don't think they can make it here. They have been fighting for a long time, and the most powerful Xian beasts were only at the 6th rank. Lu Li had lost interest in watching. Hearing Lu Li's order, the patriarchs all resorted to their moves. Under the bombardment, many Xian beasts were smashed to death. The patriarchs were unharmed. Squeak, squeak, down below, Little White didn't want to play around anymore. It dashed to the eel's neck and bit it off. Soon, Little White flew up and stood on by Xia Shuang's shoulder. Let's go. Lu Li was here to find the beast god. He was not interested in killing the average Xian beasts. As long as he could kill the beast god, he could send in some patriarchs and some warriors to kill the Xian beasts in this small world and collect a large amount of mystical materials. Along the way, there were rivers everywhere, and in the rivers were countless Xian beasts. Wherever Lu Li and the others went, the Xian beasts would follow. They never stopped. Let's go downstream. Lu Li waved his hand after a while. Small rivers converged into larger ones, and then into larger ones. In the end, there would be a super river. Naturally, the powerful Xian beasts would be hiding in the super river. Sure enough, the further they went downstream, the more powerful Xian beasts they encountered. On the contrary, there were fewer low-level Xian beasts. Still, Lu Li didn't take any actions. After all, there were 5 Earth Immortal Realm warriors with strong abilities. It would be a piece of cake for them to deal with Beast Kings. Dai, Patriarch's son, was the most powerful, and the profound meaning he learned was powerful as well. It was a profound meaning related to destruction, which was the most ferocious. A Beast King that just flew up was killed by him in one move. Oh my, Bai Xiaoshuang was speechless. Her cultivation level was not high, but she could clearly sense the great power contained in Elder Sun's attack. It could easily split a mountain, could it? Darling, when we go back, I will cultivate as well. I want to be like Patriarch's son and kill a Beast King in one move. That is impressive, Bai Xiaoshuang exclaimed to herself. Lu Li smiled but said nothing. Bai Qiushu added, Shuang, you are not young anymore. You do need to cultivate harder. Think about it. If my husband ascends to the immortal realm, but cannot come back anytime soon, if you don't cultivate and cannot ascend, you will not be able to see him for a long time. Bai Qiushu whispered to Bai Xiaoshuang, but Jiang Qiling and Lu Li heard it. Jiang Qiling and Bai Xiaoshuang's eyes dimmed down. Lu Li was taken aback. He had never thought about this before. Now that he thought about it, it was a big problem. Yes, he had the line diagram. As long as he could study it, it was highly possible that he could ascend to the immortal realm. After all, the line diagram was left by Emperor Hung, Emperor of Heaven Reverse, a mighty warrior, issued a decree stating that Lu Li could find him in the divinity and be his student. Judging from this, Emperor of Heaven Reverse must have seen something and concluded that Lu Li could ascend to the divinity. Lu Li himself wanted to go to the divinity because he wanted to find Lu Ling. Also, he longed for the divinity, but it seemed that it would be hard for him to come back. Otherwise, why would Emperor of Heaven Reverse not come back after so many years? Emperor Hung died as soon as he came back. Chapter 943. I will think about the future later, becoming an immortal and ascending to heaven. That is in the distant future. Soon, Lu Li gathered his thoughts. He had not reached the Earth Immortal Realm. It was still unknown whether he could reach the semi-god realm or not. Was it too early to think about ascending to heaven? There were so many Earth Immortal Realm warriors in the Heaven Reverse universe, but only one could reach the semi-god realm after many years. There were so many semi-god realm warriors in the 9 universes. How many could ascend to heaven in 2 million years? Then I'll have to train hard, Bai Xiaoshuang said with determination. She clenched her fists. In her eyes, she was determined. Lu Li forced a smile, but said nothing. It was a good thing that Bai Xiaoshuang could calm down. They pressed on. The underworld realm was indeed filled with powerful Xian beasts. No wonder the Asmodeans called it the underworld. Death was inevitable in there. The group had only flown for slightly more than 4 hours, and they had already encountered 6 Beast Kings. After flying for another hour, they encountered another Beast King. The river in front of them had widened, and this river converged with another river, forming a huge river. The river was 2 miles wide and 2 miles deep. There were countless aquatic creatures in the river. Luli and the others could see many water holes at the bottom of the river. The holes were long and winding. They could not tell what kind of horrifying beings were lurking in them. The beast god should be in the river. Or is there a lake or sea nearby? Luli thought to himself. He could not afford to be careless. After all, beast gods were not beast kings. Average Earth immortal realm warriors could be killed by the beast god. If they were to attack by Qiushue and by Xiaoshuang, they would be more likely to die. Go into the wicked bead. I will let you out after I kill the beast god. Luli said. Bai Qiushue and Jiang Qiling were sensible enough to know how horrifying the beast god was. Bai Xiaoshuang was not happy, but she did not say anything. Buzzing, Luli let the 3 of them into the wicked bead. He waved his hand and said, "Move on. Kill the Xian beasts as soon as you see them. Otherwise, when the beast god comes, it will be troublesome." Yes, the 5 patriarchs shouted. They were filled with killing intent. More and more Xian beasts were coming up. Every time, the 5 of them would use their moves to kill the Xian beasts. Whoosh, in the distance, the river water surged, as if there were several water arrows piercing through the river. A terrifying aura filled the air, and the nearby low-level Xian beasts immediately scattered. For Beast Kings, Luli used psychic power to check. He was not careless. Patriarch Sun and the others could kill Beast Kings. As for Beast Kings, Luli had no desire to fight them. Whoosh, 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 for giant crocodiles shot out from the water. Each crocodile was 100 zhang long and covered with golden scales. Moreover, this crocodile had a pair of wings, 6 sharp claws under its feet, and a horn on its head. Its teeth glowed with a blue light, and it was clearly highly poisonous. Boom, boom, boom. Elder Sun and the rest were not afraid. They released their killer moves and attacked the 4 strange crocodiles. The 4 crocodiles were blasted down, but what shocked Elder Sun and the others was that the 4 crocodiles were actually not injured. Not even a single scale had fallen off. What a powerful defense. Elder Sun and the others were slightly moved. They could easily kill an ordinary Beast King, but these 4 Beast Kings could not break through their defenses. Such a strange thing made them feel that it was inconceivable. Let me do it. Seeing that the 5 patriarchs were about to make another move, Luli felt it was troublesome. He flew over. His eyes glowed in silver light, and a surge of violent energy spread out from him. He did not use any killer moves. He just flew toward the 4 crocodiles. What happened next shocked Patriarch Sun and the others. The 4 crocodiles that were flying up froze in midair. Their eyes were filled with terror. They curled up and trembled. Is this the might of a beast god? Patriarch Sun seemed to remember something and shouted in surprise. Back in the days, Luli tamed several beast kings at the Mist Sea, invaded the Central Plains, and forced the Hades Society to kill Recluse Solar Dragon. Show me the way to the beast god, Luli shouted. The 4 crocodile beast kings immediately turned around and flew back into the river. Luli landed on one of the crocodiles, waved his hand, and said, "You guys follow me." There were so many beast kings in the river that Luli didn't want to kill them one by one. He used the might of a beast god to control the crocodiles to find the beast god. Luli did not have much time left. It would take him half a month to find the beast god and make a round trip. Warriors of the 9 universes could come at any time. He wanted to find the beast god and kill it as soon as possible. With the beast kings clearing the way, the low-level Xian beasts dared not to get close. Luli and the others had a smooth journey. In the time for 2 incense sticks to burn, they had traveled for thousands of miles. Roar! The river in front of them tumbled. A muffled roar came out. Then, a beast that looked like a water rhinoceros poked half of its head out from the river. His 2 large black eyes were filled with a tyrannical light. Just a single glance was enough to cause Elder Sun and the others' hearts to palpitate incessantly. Luli snorted. How could a mere beast king be so presumptuous? Luli flew over. His eyes glowed. He released the might of a beast god and subdued the beast king. Moving on, Luli collected more beast kings. Half a day later, there were 11 beast kings following Luli. Finally, Luli and the others arrived at a vast sea. The beast god should be in the sea. Luli was more confident after a few glances. He could not afford to be careless. He had 5 Earth Immortal Realm warriors with him. The beast kings spread out and surrounded Luli and the others. In this way, even if the beast god showed up, the beast kings could fend them off for a while. The group of beast kings moved forward in a straight line. There were more Shin beasts in the sea. However, Luli had 11 beast kings with him. The average Shin beast would not dare to get close. Something is wrong. An hour later, Luli murmured to himself with a frown. They had traveled such a long distance, and yet they did not run into any beast kings. That was not normal. That being said, Luli was brave. He had brought the dragon demon with him. Even if the beast god was up to something, Luli would not be afraid. Moving on, they saw some small islands. One of the beast kings bellowed, as if telling Luli that they were approaching their destination. Patriarch Sun and the others were on high alert. They held their breaths and checked the surroundings with psychic power. The weapons in their hands glowed, ready to take action at any time. Moving on, there were more and more islands. There was some mist in the sea nearby, which made it difficult for them to tell the direction. They had to follow the beast kings. Maze? Luli sneered. He did not think it was a big deal. As long as he could kill the beast god, maze and illusion would be of no use. Worst came to worst, he could just blast open the islands. Ding! All of a sudden, from the distance came a deep sound of music. It was faintly discernible, like a dream or a fantasy. The mist was fading away. In the distance came a huge island. How? Patriarch Sun and the others used psychic power to check. They were taken aback. Luli was surprised as well. On the island in the distance, there was a beautiful palace. In front of the palace stood a group of beautiful ladies. In front of this group of women stood a graceful and elegant woman who was beautiful and charming to the extreme. She wore a crown and was surrounded by other pretty ladies. It was as if stars were surrounding the moon, which made her look even more beautiful. Aha! The lady with the crown looked at Luli. She smiled before she said anything. She even bowed and said, "It is a pleasure to have friends coming from afar. Human friends, welcome to the Underworld Island. P.S. I have 15 chapters left. I will try to pay them off before the Spring Festival." Chapter 944. Patriarch Sun once said that in the Underworld realm, there were no humans, Asmodeans, or ancient races, only countless Shin beasts. Now, there were many humans, and the leader of the group could speak the human language with a standard Central Plains accent. Luli was confused. Patriarch Sun and the others were dumbfounded. But after a moment, Luli suddenly shouted, "No, those girls are illusions. Also, this one is not human. She has demonic energy." Luli had consumed the claw of a beast god and could suppress low-level Shin beasts. He was more sensitive to the energy of Shin beasts. He could sense the demonic aura from those women, and other than the one wearing the crown, the rest of the women looked at him with reverence. They were suppressed by the might of the beast god on his body, which made him feel that there was a problem. What? Patriarch Sun and the others came to their senses. They used psychic power to check, and soon they noticed something was wrong. Apart from the one with the crown, the other girls were surrounded by demonic energy. Their looks were unnatural. Clearly, they had used illusions. Beast God, Patriarch Sun, and the others were alarmed. They stared at the beautiful girl with the crown and were shocked. Could it be that after reaching the level of Beast God, they could take human form? In their eyes, the beautiful woman at the very front was exactly the same as a human woman. Uh-huh. The girl with the crown laughed before she said anything. She did not have the charm of a mature girl. Instead, she was as shy as a young girl. She smiled, nodded to Luli, and said, You are extraordinary. I am ZG. Nice to meet you, Grandmaster Lu. What? Luli was taken aback. He and Patriarch Sun looked at each other as if they had seen a ghost. Luli looked at the lady in surprise and asked, "You know me?" "Haha." The girl who called herself ZG stuck out her tongue and said, "Grandmaster Lu, your name is known all over the world. You killed the Asmodean Lord. Everyone in the Heaven Reverse universe respects you. ZG has been staying in the underworld realm for years, but she will travel every now and then. Of course, I have heard about you." Luli understood. He asked with a frown, "You are the beast god in the underworld realm, right? You could take human form?" "Yes." ZG nodded and explained, "ZG cultivated for thousands of years and luckily broke through to the beast god realm. Moreover, ZG is a special kind of Shin beast called mermaid. After cultivating to the beast god realm, she can transform into a human. These are all my clansmen. Because they're still beast emperors, they can't completely transform." ZG told Luli where she was from. Luli's desire to kill her was lessened. ZG could take the shape of a human being, and there was no ferocious beast energy about her. Luli had regarded her as a human being. Of course, the most important thing was the beast god was of no use to Luli. What he wanted was the blood of a special beast god. He could use the origin blood of the beast god to awaken a new bloodline skill. Clearly, this beast god could not help Luli awaken a new bloodline skill. The silver dragon mark in Luli's body showed no reaction. His blood was not boiling. He didn't even feel anything when he looked at ZG. Since the beast god had taken a human form and was so humble, why would Luli make a big fuss? This beast god had cultivated for thousands of years before she could take the shape of a human being. It would be cruel for Luli to kill her for no reason. After a pause, Luli asked, "ZG, are you the only beast god in the underworld realm?" "Yes." ZG nodded. She bowed and said, "Honorable human leader, since you have come to the underworld realm, please give me a chance to entertain you. Please come to the island and taste the most delicious food of the underworld realm. ZG has always admired you, Grandmaster Lu, and I want to make friends with humans. Today is a rare opportunity. Please do me the honor." Luli and Patriarch Sun were surprised. If this ZG were a human being, Luli would not hesitate. However, the other party was a beast deity with strange and unpredictable supernatural powers. What if they were ambushed after entering the island? Luli thought for a while. Looking into ZG's eyes that were filled with desire and pleading, he made up his mind. He could not take the risk now. This ZG did not seem to be dangerous. However, he was with Patriarch Sun and the others. He had to shoulder the heavy responsibility of protecting the human race. He could not put himself in danger. Luli made up his mind. He shook his head and said, "Never mind. We have come to the underworld realm for some business. Now, everything is fine. ZG, we will leave now. Goodbye." Patriarch Sun and the others were relieved. They turned around and flew away with Luli. ZG, who had been smiling all this while, suddenly changed her expressions. A glint of coldness rose in her eyes. She sneered and said, "You want to do this the hard way? Do you think the underworld realm is a place where you can come and go as you please? You have killed so many of my people." ZG let out a shrill scream. The 11 Beast Kings under Lu Li and the others all took action. They roared and flew up. At the same time, the ladies behind ZG moved as well. They dashed around like phantoms. The smog became thicker and enveloped Lu Li and the others. "This is a trap. Be careful." A glint of coldness rose in Lu Li's eyes. He built the Feather Wind Castle at once to cover himself, Patriarch Sun, and the others. But the Feather Wind Castle was not large. It had a radius of 100 feet, enough to cover himself and the others. He did not know the enemy situation. He did not have the courage to cover all the Beast Kings and ZG. He had to protect himself and figure out the situation first. Roar, roar. The 11 Beast Kings whooshed up and attacked the Feather Wind Castle. Many walls of the castle were smashed. Luli did not worry about the feather wind castle, because he could repair the walls quickly. Besides, those were just beast kings. They were not that destructive. Woo woo woo. What caught Luli's attention was the strange music coming from all directions. The music was beautiful, melodious, and he could not tell what the source was. Well, something is wrong. Luli noticed that after a moment, the scenery changed automatically. He found himself in a gorgeous palace on the island, surrounded by pink gauze. Behind the gauze were many beautiful ladies. They were wearing revealing clothes, and their eyes were filled with flirtatious glints. They walked out from behind the gauze, and many of them started to take off their clothes. This illusion is impressive, but it is just child's play. The silver dragon mark on Lu Li's core of soul glowed. The scene in front of him was shattered. He used psychic power to check and was taken aback. In that instant, his feather wind castle exploded, and Patriarch Sun and the other four were flying towards EG. Their eyes were filled with lust. They had forgotten themselves. Impressive. Chapter 945. ZG is so cunning. Luli remembered that he, Patriarch Sun, and the others were fooled by her. Luli was even more cautious about this girl. Just now, Luli almost believed that ZG really wanted to make friends with him. Not only did he not want to kill her, but he also almost invited her to the island as a guest. If he didn't make up his mind to refuse and bring Patriarch Sun and the others to the island, the consequences would be unimaginable. ZG must have a clever plan. He might not be able to survive, but someone among Patriarch Sun and the others would die. Feather Wind Castle open. Without any hesitation, Luli activated the Feather Wind Castle at once. The castle covered an area with a radius of 3 miles, including Patriarch Sun, the Beast Kings, ZG, and the Beast Kings. Patriarch Sun and the others could not go near ZG. They had to defend against the attacks from ZG and the Beast Kings. Needless to say, the Feather Wind Castle was a good measure. It could protect Patriarch Sun and the others while attacking ZG and the Beast Kings. As expected, as soon as the Feather Wind Castle appeared, Patriarch Sun and the others immediately held their heads and screamed in pain. The Beast Kings on the ground could no longer attack. All of them were rolling around in the air, letting out earth-shattering roars. What surprised Luli was that ZG and the Beast King subordinates were not affected at all. ZG was still standing on the island, feeling at ease. As for her subordinates, they took out their tridents and attacked the walls of the Feather Wind Castle. They dashed toward Patriarch Sun and the others. Since the mermaids are good at soul attacks, their souls must be strong. They can stand the soul attacks in the Feather Wind. Luli was not nervous. He waved his hands and generated many feather wind weapons that flew toward the ladies. The feather wind weapons were not only capable of soul attacks, but also physical ones. Those girls were merely beast kings. How could they stand such strong attacks? On the other side, Luli moved the Feather Wind Castle. The rooms of Patriarch Sun and the others were moving closer to Luli's, while the mermaids' rooms were moving further away. The rooms in his Feather Wind Castle could be moved quickly. In this way, it would be troublesome for others to break into the Feather Wind Castle. Whoosh, whoosh, thousands of Feather Wind divine weapons whizzed forward like thousands of sharp swords. In an instant, they arrived in front of the mermaid beast kings. ZG shouted from below, "Water shield defense!" Buzz! The mermaid beast emperors did not hesitate. Their bodies lit up with a deep blue light, and an aquamarine shield appeared in front of them. The shield seemed to be made of water, and there were even ripples flowing on it. It was very strange. Bang, bang, bang. Luli's feather wind weapons all landed on the mermaid beast king's water shield. What happened next shocked Luli. His feather wind weapons could pierce through mountains and destroy weapons made of ice, but they could not penetrate the half-transparent water shield. When the feather wind weapons pierced through, the water shield in front of the mermaid beast king began to writhe. There seemed to be countless swirls inside. As soon as the feather wind weapons entered the vortex, they naturally followed the vortex and eventually lost all their energy. Power transfer, using softness to overcome hardness? This water shield is not bad. Luli nodded to himself. No matter how strong the force was, it would be dissolved in water. The water shields of the mermaid beast kings were miraculous. This must be their special skill. After all, mermaids were mystical beasts that lived in the water, so it was normal for them to know how to use water. Rising dragon. Luli's back glared as a silver dragon whooshed up and vanished into the sky. The next second, Luli reappeared above a mermaid beast king. Luli did not believe that the water shield of mermaids could withstand the rising dragon. Swish, the space above a mermaid beast king cracked. A huge yellow claw whooshed down. That mermaid beast king hurried to build a water shield in fear. Bang! Maybe it was because the water shield took too long to build, or maybe the rising dragon skill was too strong, but the water shield exploded at once. The huge golden claw smashed down, and the mermaid beast king was crushed. Back then, Luli had defeated several human sovereign realm warriors. Naturally, it would not be a problem to crush beast kings. Luli's back glowed again as another golden claw came into being. He checked ZG with psychic power. He did not care about the mermaid beast kings. He wanted to see how ZG would react. ZG's reaction was strong. She only had a dozen beast kings. How could she stand by and watch Luli kill them? She took out a wand and waved it at the sky. Bang, bang, bang. As soon as she waved the wand, the ocean was stirred up. Columns of water whooshed across the sky. Those columns of water were dozens of feet thick. They were like huge dragons of water, surging toward the Feather Wind Castle. She wants to destroy my Feather Wind Castle with columns of water. Luli was surprised. ZG would not resort to such a stupid move. After all, 1 second later, one of her people would die. She should know very well that regular attacks could not bring down the Feather Wind Castle. Swish, swish, soon, Luli understood ZG's intention. He was amazed by her means. Those columns of water reached the outside of the Feather Wind Castle. After a violent collision, they all turned into mist. The mist snuck into the Feather Wind Castle. Gather. Then, ZG waved the white wand in her hand. The mist formed into dragons of water that rampaged around inside the Feather Wind Castle. In an instant, the Feather Wind Castle was smashed. The dragons of water whooshed toward Luli. Good. She is capable. Luli nodded to himself. Not even average semi-god realm warriors could break down his Feather Wind Castle, but ZG did it in an instant. ZG's control of water had reached the acme of perfection. Luli was not frightened by the dragons of water whooshing toward him. He waved his hands and generated many feather wind weapons. They flew across the sky and found a dragon of water to attack. Bang! Both the dragons of water and the feather wind weapons exploded. However, ZG waved her wand, and the broken columns of water came together again. The water dragons swarmed toward Luli. Feather wind weapons go. Luli stood in midair with pride. He waved his hands. Over 1,000 feather wind weapons came into being. ZG had a strong control over water. She could generate endless dragons of water. However, Luli's control over wind was strong as well. He could generate endless dragons of wind. When he generated feather wind, he borrowed the force in heaven and earth, not his own strength. As long as there was wind nearby, he could generate endless feather wind without consuming too much of his Xian energy and soul energy. Admittedly, ZG's move was powerful. She could rely on the endless dragons of water to attack. Average warriors would be exhausted and eventually die. However, if that was all ZG could do, Luli would not feel any pressure. Chapter 946. Buzzing. Patriarch's son and the others had been moved over. Luli took out the wicked bead and put it away. Patriarch's son and the others were half conscious. But as soon as they were in the wicked bead, they came back to their senses. They were ashamed. Human, you do have some tricks. I admire you. On the other side, after a few rounds of attacks, ZG's clansmen also easily retreated. She stopped the dragons of water. She took out an oyster, put it to her mouth, and said with a sweet smile, "Human, you are now qualified to listen to the most sacred song of the mermaid race, Love Song of Mermaids. If you can solve this song, I will be convinced by you." Dee Wooloo. ZG put the oyster to her mouth and blew into it. A unique piece of music came out. Several mermaid beast kings danced around her. The mist became thicker, but Luli could see everything on the island clearly. It was as if the island was in his mind directly. Luli's eyes became misty. He was intoxicated. He realized that the world in front of him had changed. He had come to a beautiful island, and a group of beautiful girls were dancing around him. Those girls were not seducing him. They were just dancing naturally, showing off their graceful figures and beautiful dances. The island was beautiful. The view was like a fairyland. The girls were like a dream. Everything was so surreal and yet so real at the same time. There was also the melodious and unique music. It was as if it came from heaven. Naturally, it could put people at ease and immerse them in the beauty. Slowly, Luli closed his eyes, intoxicated. On the island, ZG's smile was getting wider. She kept on playing, but she winked at the mermaid beast kings behind her. Those dancing girls flew up and danced in the air as well. But they were moving closer to Luli. Whoosh, ZG kicked on the ground with one leg. She floated up and moved closer to Luli. At the same time, she checked Luli's body condition to make sure that Luli was affected by the song. The mermaid race had two major skills. The first was soul attacks, and the second was the control of water. Profound meaning of water had no effect on Luli, so he had to resort to soul attacks. ZG was a peerless genius of the mermaid clan that only appeared once in 10,000 years. Not only had she broken through the beast god realm and completely transformed into a human, she had also comprehended the mermaid clan's supreme divine song, the mermaid's love song. ZG was very conceited about this. Not to mention that Luli was only at the later stage of the human sovereign realm. Even average warriors of the semi-god realm would be shocked by the mermaid's love song and fall into some strange illusion uncontrollably. They wouldn't even know how they died. 3,000 zhong, 8,000 zhong. Luli's eyes were still closed. There was no fluctuation of Xian energy around him. He seemed to be intoxicated. Clearly, he had fallen into an illusion. ZG's eyes grew brighter, but she didn't let her guard down. She continued to let her clansmen approach slowly, and she followed closely behind, playing a strange tune. 5,000 zhong, 3,000 zhong. ZG was breathing heavily. She looked at the wicked bead in Luli's hand. She had never been to the divine great land, but she used to hide among the demon clan. For example, Luli had a relic in his hands, and the Asmodean Lord was trying so hard to get it. If she could kill Luli and get the relic, she might be able to lead the mermaid race to glory. She could kill her way back to her ancestral land and dominate the other races. 2,000 zhong, 1,000 zhong. Luli still didn't respond. ZG was struggling. Should she send her beast kings, or should she do it herself? Luli's realm was not high. That being said, he was a leader of the human race, one that could defeat the Asmodean Lord. What if her subordinates could not kill Luli? On the other hand, if she did it herself, what if Luli fought back before his death? What if Luli had other powerful moves? Never mind. Be careful. ZG made up her mind. It was Luli who killed the Asmodean Lord. She was not there, and she didn't know how Luli did it. But she was certain that Luli had more tricks up his sleeves. She winked at her subordinates. A glint of killing intent rose in their eyes. They took out their tridents and stabbed at Luli at the top of their speed. No, retreat. The mermaid beast king flew on. When it was only 100 feet away from Luli, ZG suddenly shouted. At that moment, she noticed that Luli's mouth was twitching. He put on a wicked smile. Too late. Luli opened his eyes all of a sudden. He waved his hands and unleashed the might of a beast god. Feather wind weapons were shot to all sides. At the same time, he built the feather wind castle to envelop the mermaid beast kings. The wicked bee glowed as Little White dashed out in a blur. Bang, 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 bang. Luli was so close that many mermaid beast kings did not have the time to build water shields. The moment the might of a beast god overwhelmed them, 6 beast kings were hit by the feather wind weapons. Holes appeared on their bodies, and then they were minced into pieces by the feather wind weapons. Bang, bang, bang. The remaining mermaid beast kings were stronger, and they reacted fast. However, Luli was too close to them. All of them were wounded and smashed into the walls of the castle. Squeak, squeak, Little White came over, squeaking. It was so fast that a mermaid beast king was smashed away. Little White landed on its neck. The mermaid beast king screamed in pain. After a white glare, it changed back to its original form. It was a half-human, half-fish mermaid. Luli, how dare you? In the distance, ZG was furious to see so many of her people dying in an instant. Luli's little beast was charging toward the next mermaid beast king. She was enraged. She waved her wand. Dragons of water swarmed over, trying to break down Luli's feather wind castle. Ha ha ha, it is too late. Luli laughed. He continued to use feather wind weapons to cooperate with Little White. Those mermaid beast kings were all wounded. By the time ZG broke down the feather wind castle, they would all be dead. Every time Little White glowed, a mermaid beast king would be bitten to death. The human form would disappear, and the mermaid beast king would turn into a dead mermaid. Below the mermaid beast king's tail was glistening. It was quite strange. Bang! A mermaid beast king wielded its trident and tried to stab at Little White. However, Little White opened its mouth and bit at the trident. The trident was crushed. Little White bit at the mermaid beast king's arm. Needless to say, it was a tragic ending. Bang! Those mermaid beast kings tried to break down the feather wind castle and escape. However, there were many more rooms outside. Luli's feather wind weapons were almost endless. Several mermaid beast kings were already injured. Soon, they were stabbed to death. Luli, I'm going to kill you. ZG looked at her clansmen lying in pools of blood one by one, and her pretty face turned hideous. She waved the white wand in her hand. The seawater surged toward the feather wind castle. Then, the seawater turned into dragons of water and dashed around. Boom! Finally, the feather wind castle collapsed. But all the mermaid beast kings had been killed. With the cooperation of Little White and Luli, those low-level beast kings could not survive. Are you losing your patience? Chapter 9:47. Good. ZG pulled a long face as she watched her people fall to the ground. She nodded coldly and said, Luli, you have successfully enraged me. I wanted to kill you, but now I will turn your soul into a fish slave. You will be a slave of the mermaid race forever. Woo woo, ZG played the oyster again. This time, the tune was different. Luli frowned, confused. There was a silver dragon mark in his core of soul. Soul attacks were ineffective on him, which had been proven. Why was ZG still so stubborn? Something is not right. Luli realized something was wrong. This time, he did not enter any illusion. The tune was not a soul attack. It seemed that ZG was summoning. Bang, bang, bang. The water was surging. Luli could see with psychic power that many Xian beasts were swarming over. The island was covered in thick fog. Was some formation going to be activated? Let's end this. Luli did not want to waste any more time. This must be ZG's final move. Now that he had forced ZG to use her most powerful move, he would not stand there and let ZG attack him. Go! He generated over 1,000 feather wind weapons and sent them at ZG. Many of the feather wind weapons were coming from other directions. Luli was attacking ZG from all sides. Water shield. ZG waved her white truncheon. A thick and transparent shield appeared around her. The relic weapons all landed on the water shield. However, it was the same as hitting the water shield. There was no reaction. The water shield only trembled slightly, showing no sign of cracking. Dragon Demon, come out! There was no other way. A red glare came out from between Luli's eyebrows. A shadow came out. A horrifying beast emerged in midair. As soon as the dragon demon came out, it roared into the sky. The Xian beasts that were swarming over stopped moving. They were trembling. The Xian beasts in the distance ran away in fear. Is this a mythical beast? ZG was playing the oyster when she stopped. She stared at the dragon demon in terror. Even though she had taken the shape of a human being, she was still a Xian beast. Naturally, she could sense the horrifying might of the dragon demon. Beast deities and mythological beasts might not look the same, but the difference in strength was like heaven and earth. Different levels of Xian beasts would result in different deterrence effects. For example, beast gods could deter beast kings. Luli had the energy of a beast god in him, so he could defeat beast kings easily. Run. ZG did not hesitate. No matter how many tricks she had up her sleeves, she gave up as soon as the dragon demon showed up. She might have the courage to fight human warriors at the semi-god realm, but not the dragon demon. The energy of the dragon demon could suppress her. Before the fight even began, she had already been weakened. How could she fight? Can you still escape? Luli put on a mocking grin. He gave an order to the dragon demon through their spiritual connection. The dragon demon spread its wings. The blood-red horn on its head glowed. A wave of blood swept across. ZG, who was trying to run, was trapped by the red airstream and could not move. Dragon demon, tell all the low-level Xian beasts to piss off. Luli gave another order to the dragon demon. The dragon demon raised its head and roared. All the Xian beasts fled to all sides in fear. In the time for a few breaths, all of them were gone. Buzzing, Luli let Patriarch Sun and the others out. He waved his hand and said, "Let's go to the island and take all the good stuff." Now that the fight had begun, Luli would not be merciful. ZG was the master of the underworld realm. She must have some good stuff. It would be a waste not to take them. Patriarch Sun and the others were delighted to see that ZG was trapped by the dragon demon. They flew toward the island under the suppression of the dragon demon and began to collect the treasures and wealth that ZG had accumulated over the years. The dragon demon was large in size and could not fly in the air. It fell to the island. ZG, on the other hand, was trapped by the red light. She could not move at all. Her eyes were filled with despair and fear. She stared at the dragon demon. She could not figure out how Luli could tame such a powerful mythical beast. ZG had been hiding among the Asmodeans, but she did not dare to be too conspicuous. After all, the Asmodean lord was powerful. Therefore, she could not gather much information. After Luli killed the Asmodean lord, she returned to the underworld realm at once. Therefore, she had heard something about Luli taming the dragon demon, but she did not know that the dragon demon was this powerful. No matter what, ZG knew that she had lost, a crushing defeat. She had been coveting Luli's wicked bead. Now, she was going to lose her life. She cultivated for thousands of years to reach the stage of a beast god. She did not expect that she would die so soon after she made the breakthrough. ZG, you have two choices. Either you die, or you surrender to me. Luli's voice pulled ZG back from her thoughts. She put on a mocking smile and replied without any hesitation. The mermaid race used to be a race of mythical beasts. How can we surrender to a puny human like you? Do it. Save your breath. Mythical beasts? Luli rolled his eyes and said with mockery, "You mermaid race are mythical beasts. So, you are from the divinity? Do you think I'm a 3-year-old? Ridiculous. The mythical beasts that we are talking about are not the mythical beasts as you know them." ZG explained with pride. The mythical beasts of the beast race refer to those who once had ancestors in the divinity. Only those who became immortals are qualified to be called mythical beasts. I see. Luli finally understood. Then he asked in surprise, "Wait a minute. If there is a mythical beast in the underworld realm, how can the Heaven Reverse universe not know about it? If there is a mythical beast, the mermaid race would have conquered the Heaven Reverse universe." Heaven Reverse universe? Haha. ZG said with disdain. The Heaven Reverse universe is just a small universe. Why would our ancestors like it? If it were not for the fact that we were attacked by several major races, we would not have ended up hiding in the underworld realm. What? Luli picked up a deeper meaning from ZG's words. He asked, "Are you saying the mermaid race was not originally from the underworld realm, but from a more powerful universe? A universe like the Earth Imperial Universe or the Mage Imperial Universe?" The Earth Imperial Universe is nothing. ZG raised her head with pride. Millions of years ago, we Paleobeasts dominated all the nearby universes. The Earth Imperial Universe, the Divine Imperial Universe, the Mage Imperial Universe, and other universes were our territories. Back then, you humans could only be our food and playthings. 2 million years ago, if it were not for the fact that the 10 most powerful Paleobeasts fought against each other in the Civil War, how could you humans rise? Haha. ZG seemed to have remembered something. She asked again, "Do you know how the ancient races of the Heaven Reverse Universe came into being? They're the offspring of us Paleobeasts and you humans. Those Asmodeans, Feather Race, Barbarian Race, Titan Race, and so on are the offspring of us Paleobeasts with impure bloodlines. In other words, they are bastards." What? Luli was stunned. He could not believe that the ancient races that once dominated the Heaven Reverse Universe for hundreds of thousands of years were the offspring of Paleobeasts and humans. Chapter 948. Elder Son, Luli shouted. From the island in the distance, Patriarch's son flew up. Luli asked, "Have you heard of Paleobeasts?" Patriarch's son was one of the oldest patriarchs of the demon-slaying hall. He had been a patriarch for more than 600 years. There was a lot of information in the demon-slaying hall. If Paleobeasts did exist, Patriarch's son should know something about them. ZG's words were too shocking. The 9 realms used to be the ancient beast race's territory. The winged race, the demon race, the barbarian race, and the titan race were all hybrids between the ancient beast race and humans. The entire Heaven Reverse universe would be in an uproar if this was known. Ancient beast race. Patriarch's son frowned. After some thoughts, he shook his head and said, "I don't think the demon-slaying hall has any records about the Paleobeasts. Maybe I haven't read enough. I don't remember." Ignorant. ZG glanced disdainfully at Elder Sunday. After a moment of thought, she said, "But it's normal that you haven't heard of it. The ancient beasts were at their peak 2 million years ago. Later on, your humankind rose to power, but you were hunted down for many years. Many large races were destroyed, and the remaining races were hiding in small worlds, struggling at death's door. They haven't come out for more than 1 million years." Luli looked at ZG with curiosity and asked, "You said that the mermaid race was not in the underworld realm. Were you? How did you come to the netherworld realm?" Hee. ZG threw Luli a glance and said, "Grandmaster Lu, don't even think about the Paleobeast realm. I am not belittling you. If you dare to go to the Paleobeast realm, I promise you that you will die a horrible death." Paleobeast realm. Luli sensed danger. Could the Paleobeast realm enter the underworld realm? Wouldn't it mean that the powerful warriors of the Paleobeast realm could enter the Heaven Reverse universe constantly? I have to find a way to get information about the Paleobeast realm. Luli thought to himself. Then he looked at ZG with pride and said, "ZG, I am not scared. Aren't you strong? Didn't I take him down in the end? The Paleobeast realm was strong? I don't believe it. Tell me, how scary is the Paleobeast realm? See if you can scare me? You want to get information out of me?" ZG could tell what was on Li's mind. "But I am afraid to tell you that there's a passageway to the Paleobeast realm from the underworld realm. The Paleobeast realm is full of powerful warriors. If you're not convinced, feel free to try." "All right," Li continued. "Where's the entrance? I have the courage to go in alone. Can the Paleobeast realm be more horrifying than the Central Imperial Universe and the Mage Imperial Universe?" "Huh." Violet smiled faintly and didn't say anything. She sighed and said, "Don't talk so much nonsense. If you want to kill me, do as you please. Don't try to trick me. I'm not trying to trick you." Coldness rose in the depth of Li's eyes. He said coldly, "I'm interrogating you. If you don't want to suffer, then answer me. Also, your mermaid clan has many people in the Nether God realm, right? Do you believe that I won't mobilize an army and slaughter all of your mermaid clan? ZG's expressions changed. She didn't mind being tortured or mistreated. But if the mermaid race was wiped out, how could she face the ancestors of the mermaid race after she passed away? Therefore, after a while, she sighed and said, Luli, I need you to swear that you will not hurt any of my people when I give you the information you need. No problem, Luli said boldly. As long as you tell your people not to attack mine, I promise you that I will not kill any of your people. It was meaningless for Luli to kill the killer fish race. The mermaid race was just another species of beasts. It didn't matter if they were killed or not. What mattered was the information about the paleo beasts, which would put Luli at ease. Yukari nodded slightly and said, Ask away. I will tell you everything I know about the most basic things. But there are some secrets of the paleo beast that I have sworn not to tell you. You can't force me to tell you. Okay, Luli nodded. First, he asked, where's the entrance to the paleo beast realm? Will the paleo beasts come here? The entrance is under the underworld island. I have sealed over a dozen layers. It will not be easy for the paleo beast realm to come here. Also, the entrance is well hidden. Theoretically speaking, the average beast cannot find it. Otherwise, they would have come here a long time ago. Luli nodded and asked, how many powerful ones are there among the paleo beasts? What are their ranks? ZG thought about it and said, when my mother brought the mermaid race here, the paleo beast had more than 30 beast gods. The most powerful one was the 9-clawed silver dragon. They had 9 beast gods and were the absolute overlords of the paleo beast realm. There are also 6 other powerful beast clans, each with 3 to 5 beast deities. But it has been 10,000 years since then. After I reached the beast god stage, I sneaked back. Before I could find out what was going on, I was discovered and had to flee. But I don't think the paleo beast realm has made much progress. Otherwise, I would have gone to the divine imperial universe for revenge. The paleo beast realm is vast, at least 5 times larger than the heaven reverse universe. Among the 7 major species, the 9-clawed silver dragon ranks first, the 3-eyed blood ape ranks second, the 10-winged wolf ranks third, and the 4th is ZG was sensible this time. Luli didn't even have to ask. She told them almost everything about the paleo beast realm. Luli and Patriarch Sun were shocked. When Luli heard about the 9-clawed silver dragon, he breathed faster. He had 2 silver dragon marks in his bead of life and soul pond. If he could kill 1 or 2 9-clawed silver dragon beast gods and obtain their origin blood essence, he could awaken 1 or 2 bloodline skills. By then, his abilities would soar. But Luli was not so reckless. He did not ask about the 9-clawed silver dragon right away. Instead, he asked about other paleo beasts. He even asked about the paleo beasts and the feud between the paleo beasts and the 9 universes. 2 hours later, Luli finally had a clear answer. In the end, he asked, are you sure that there are no beings above the beast god realm in the paleo beast realm? ZG shook her head after some thoughts. I cannot be sure, but the paleo beast realm is lacking in Xianxi and mystical materials. I don't think any beast god can make the breakthrough. Otherwise, they would have gone to the divine imperial universe for revenge. Okay, Luli had made up his mind. He planned to explore the paleo beast realm and capture some 9-clawed silver dragons. If he could awaken 1 or 2 bloodline skills, he would be more confident when warriors of the 9 universes came. Wu family of the mage, imperial family of the 9 universes, had an ancestor that went to the divinity. Who knew if other families had ancestors that went to the divinity? It was said that the divine imperial universe was the most powerful of the 9 universes. There was only one super family in the divine imperial universe, and that family was recognized as the leader of the 9 universes. If the divine imperial universe were to get involved, Luli's current abilities would not be enough. Let's send Qiling and Xiuxua back and bring Great-Grandpa and Kome. The 3 of us and Little White and the Dragon Demon will be enough. Chapter 949. The Underworld Island had collected many mystical materials and treasures. ZG was not only the master of the Underworld realm, but also the leader of the mermaid race. The mermaid race used to be a powerful race in the Paleobeast realm. When they fled to the Underworld realm, they brought many treasures with them. Now, all of them had fallen into Lu Li's hands. Lu Li did not care about the mystical materials and treasures. What bothered him was how to deal with ZG. ZG would rather die than become a slave. Lu Li had to either kill her or imprison her. He was unfamiliar with the Paleobeast realm, and there were many things he did not know. It would be more convenient for him to bring ZG along. In the end, Lu Li decided to destroy ZG's cultivation. Even though ZG had taken the form of a human, she still had an internal core. The internal core was the foundation of a Xian beast. Once it was destroyed, the warrior would have no Xian energy and many skills could not be used. At the very least, ZG could not control the dragons of water to attack or play the Song of Mermaids. The best she could do was to use soul attacks, which posed no threat to Lu Li. Lu Li winked at Patriarch Sun, who took out a dagger and stabbed at ZG's abdomen. ZG trembled. Blood oozed out from her mouth. Her eyes were filled with unforgettable hatred. She stared at Patriarch Sun as if she wanted to eat him alive. Patriarch Sun snorted. He took out the demon trapping chains and tied ZG up. Lu Li nodded and put away the dragon demon. Then, he put ZG into the outer hall of the Wicked Bead. Jiang Qiling and the others were in the inner hall. ZG could not hurt them, even if she wanted to. ZG was taken. Patriarch Sun went on to loot ZG's wealth. It took him more than a dozen interspatial rings before he turned the island upside down. The entrance to the Paleobeast realm was found. It was in an underground palace under the island. Let's look around. Lu Li waved his hand. Several patriarchs flew to different directions and searched the area. Apart from finding many mermaids living on the islands, they found nothing else. Lu Li promised not to kill the mermaid race. He asked Patriarch Sun and the others to come back. They arrived at the entrance. Lu Li asked Patriarch Sun and the other patriarchs to stay and guard the entrance in case it was destroyed. He took Jiang Qiling and the others to the ocean land of the east and teleported back to the demon-slaying hall. The war with the Feather Race was not over yet. Patriarch of Law Enforcement had gone to the Featherland of the West, and so did Kameng. Lu Li had to wait. He stayed at the demon-slaying hall with Jiang Qiling and the others to cultivate and study the third line diagram. A month later, Lu Li had learned another 3 pieces. Finally, Patriarch of Law Enforcement and the others returned to the capital. The small world of the Featherland of the West had been conquered, and the royal family of the Feather Race had been wiped out. There was no powerful force in the Featherland of the West that could threaten the human race anymore. Even if there were 1 or 2 Earth Immortal Realm warriors from the Feather Race hiding there, they would not be able to cause too much trouble. Paleobeast Realm. Patriarch of Law Enforcement frowned after hearing Lu Li's explanation. He thought about it and said, "Wait a minute. I will go and do some research." The disciplinary elder left in a hurry. After a while, he returned and said, "The ancient beasts do exist, but those are only legends. It is said that in ancient times, the Paleobeast dominated the Heaven Reverse universe. Back then, humans could only be food for the Paleobeasts, like livestock in a pen. But later on, it is said that the Paleobeasts angered the god. The god punished the Paleobeasts and wiped them out. Almost all of the Paleobeasts were wiped out, but some Paleobeasts mated with some humans and had many offspring. Those are the special ancient races, such as the Feather Race and the Asmodeans." "I knew it." Lu Li nodded to himself. ZG did not lie to him. The ancient races were indeed the result of the hybridization between Paleobeasts and humans. No wonder many ancient races looked like humans, but possessed the miraculous abilities of Xian beasts. Lu Li, Patriarch of Law Enforcement, thought about it and said, "I don't think we should take the risk. The Paleobeasts are different from Xian beasts and other ferocious beasts. The Paleobeasts are highly intelligent, and they know how to cultivate. They have all kinds of powerful skills. If we go to the Paleobeast realm rashly, we will become the enemy of the entire Paleobeast race. We may not be able to come back. Patriarch of Law Enforcement and Lu Li were the pillars of the human race. They were about to enter an unknown world, and their enemies were those that once dominated many universes. ZG said that there were no mythical beasts among the Paleobeasts. But what if there were? What was more, the Paleobeast realm was inhabited by Paleobeasts. When the two of them went in, they would be faced with dangers and enemies from all over the world. They were unfamiliar with the place, and enemies were everywhere. Once they were encircled, it was hard to say whether they could survive. Great-grandpa Lu Li understood Patriarch of Law Enforcement's concern. There were only the two of them in the room. Lu Li didn't want to hide the truth. He said, frankly, I obtained the wicked bead at the Central Imperial Universe. It is a relic. Back then, many powerful warriors fought for it. In the end, a mysterious powerful warrior, the crippled Zen master, helped me scare off the enemies. But now, they may break down the barriers between universes and invade the Heaven Reverse universe to force me to give up the wicked bead. In 2 or 3 years, they will come. I must grow stronger so that I can defeat the warriors of the 9 universes and protect the Heaven Reverse universe. Because of a strange animal tooth pendant, I have awakened the Silver Dragon bloodline. This bloodline is strange. I can acquire new bloodline skills constantly, but I need powerful origin blood essence. Therefore, I must go to the Paleobeast realm and get the origin blood essence of the 9-clawed silver dragon. Lu Li's explanation was not very clear, but Patriarch of Law Enforcement had more or less understood. Patriarch of Law Enforcement thought about it and said, okay, I will go with you. After all, the Heaven Reverse universe is fine now. Zhengyang will be in charge. Patriarch of Law Enforcement went out and sent a message for Lu Zhengyang to come back. Then he told Jiang Tianshun and Patriarch Lei some things. Lu Li called Jiang Qiling and the others over and gave them some instructions. Then he set off with Patriarch of Law Enforcement and Kumang. Jiang Qiling and the others watched as Lu Li and Kumang left. Bai Xiaoshuang was too naive to know what Lu Li was going to do. Jiang Qiling and Bai Qiushue, on the other hand, had a vague idea. Therefore, they turned pale. Lu Li was powerful. He said he was going to explore a small world. Why did he have to ask Patriarch of Law Enforcement and Kumang along? Even though Lu Li did not say much, both of them could tell that the place must be extraordinary. Also, Lu Li left a pouch and told them to open it when he was not back in 2 years. 2 years? Lu Li was going to a place far away. Or a dangerous place, so dangerous that Lu Li had to leave his last words. Darling, you must come back safely. Bai Qiushue prayed to herself. She would not stop Lu Li because what he was going to do must be something important. She could only pray for his safety. Darling, don't worry. Go and explore. Chapter 950. Beneath Underworld God Island, there was an underground palace. There was a deep entrance there, but this entrance shone with light. It was clear that there was a very strong restrictive spell. Ancient beasts were different from ordinary beasts. Not only did they possess all sorts of beast divine abilities, but they could also cultivate and understand restrictions. Of course, as far as Kumang was concerned, the inhibition formations were of low levels. He nodded to Lu Li and said, Saint Lord, these inhibition formations are not strong. I can break them easily. Do you want me to do it now? Break. There was nothing to prepare. Lu Li waved his hand. Kumang poured out Xian energy and took out some formation stones to crack the formation. In just the time it took for 2 incense sticks to burn, many of the restrictions set up by ZG were easily broken. Elder Son, you guys stay here. Lu Li turned to Patriarch Son and said, Unless you die, this entrance cannot be lost. There were no more powerful Xian beasts in the underworld realm. Lu Li told ZG to order the mermaids to hole up in a corner. There were only some beast kings that Patriarch Son could deal with. This entrance was crucial, and so was the entrance to the ocean land of the east. Nothing could go wrong. Otherwise, Lu Li and the others would not be able to return to the Heaven Reverse universe. I'll set up some restrictions. Kumang thought about it for a moment, then began to set up restrictions in the underground palace, in case Elder Sun and Elder Qian couldn't guard this place. 2 hours later, Kumang was done. Without any hesitation, Lu Li waved his hand and said, "Let's go." Lu Li let ZG out and grabbed her with one hand. Patriarch of Law Enforcement took Kumang and they dashed toward the entrance. White light flashed before everyone's eyes, and they felt the world spin around them. After teleporting for who knows how long, everyone finally felt their bodies land on the ground. Lu Li used psychic power to check at once. He realized that the entrance was well hidden. They were in a small cave deep in the sea. This cave was very deep, and even his spiritual force was unable to detect the situation outside. Furthermore, this cave was very small, and an average Shin beast would definitely not be able to enter. "Go!" Lu Li made a gesture. They walked out carefully while checking with psychic power. After walking for the time it took for 3 incense sticks to burn, everyone could finally see the situation outside. Sure enough, it was the deep sea outside, and he could detect some underwater creatures. Lu Li built a shield with Xian energy to cover them up and keep the water out. Looking at ZG, he asked, "Are there any powerful paleo beasts out there? I mean beast god level." No. The injury on ZG's lower abdomen had healed, but her body was obviously very weak. Her inner core had been destroyed, so she couldn't recover even if she wanted to. She shook her head and said, "This is the Sea of Withered Glory, but it's at the border, so there definitely isn't a beast god here. 10,000 miles to the north is the Paleobeast continent. There'll be many Paleobeasts there." "Do you have a map?" Lu Li asked as he reached for it. ZG shook her head. However, she did draw a rough map of the Paleobeast realm and marked out the locations of the powerful beasts. The northwest. Lu Li's target was the 9-clawed silver dragon. He looked at Patriarch of Law Enforcement and said, "Great-grandpa, how about we sneak over carefully? How about we kill or capture a few 9-clawed silver dragons and return immediately?" "Good." Patriarch of Law Enforcement nodded. Lu Li only came to the Paleobeast realm for the origin blood essence of the 9-clawed silver dragons. There was no need to start a full-scale war with the Paleobeasts. If everything went smoothly, they could capture a few 9-clawed silver dragons and return immediately. By then, even if all the Paleobeasts were alarmed, they would have returned to the Heaven Reverse universe by then. Lu Li asked Kumang to build some inhibition formations and then put Kumang and himself into the Wicked Bead. Lu Li and Patriarch of Law Enforcement concealed their energy and snuck out. Patriarch of Law Enforcement's psychic power was strong. Lu Li followed him. Soon, they were out of the sea and headed upward. Splash, splash, in the distance the sea was tumbling. A huge shark dashed over. Inevitably, their human energy alarmed the Xian beasts in the sea nearby. Lu Li took out the cold edge saber, but Patriarch of Law Enforcement waved his hand. Patriarch of Law Enforcement did not attack. When the shark was close, Patriarch of Law Enforcement released his energy and suppressed the shark. Then, Patriarch of Law Enforcement punched the shark's head and knocked it out. "Let's go." Patriarch of Law Enforcement waved his hand. Lu Li understood at once. If they killed the shark, there would be blood. Once the blood spread, all the Xian beasts nearby would be alarmed. The two of them continued to swim towards the sea. Along the way, they encountered Xian beasts, but the law enforcement elder managed to knock them unconscious. Not a single Xian beast was killed. They were fast. In the time for 2 incense sticks to burn, they emerged from the water. Patriarch of Law Enforcement used psychic power to check and found an island to the north. "Let's go to the island and have a look." The two of them couldn't possibly stay in the sea forever, right? Patriarch of Law Enforcement waved his hand. They snuck toward the island. Before they got close, Patriarch of Law Enforcement said with a frown, "There are many flying Xian beasts on the island. They are all birds." "Birds?" Lu Li was intrigued. He asked, "How many? Are they strong?" "Not many, just over 100. Patriarch of Law Enforcement raised his eyebrows. Not strong, either. They are at the 6th rank. What? Kill them all? No. Luli shook his head. I have the might of a beast god. I could defeat all the Shin beasts. Then we can ride the birds to the Paleobeast continent. Okay. Patriarch of Law Enforcement remembered that Luli seemed to be able to control beast kings. He smiled and sneaked toward the island with Luli. Whoosh! After approaching the island, the two of them immediately shot out of the sea like sharp swords, their bodies flashing as they charged into the island. Chirp! Chirp! There were over 100 cyan-colored birds on the island. They were all large, more than 100 feet in length. They were all alarmed. They flew up, trying to fly up. Get down here. Li's eyes glowed. He unleashed the might of a beast. Those cyan-colored birds that flew up dropped to the ground and stayed still. Whoosh! Luli flew over and punched the cyan-colored birds to death. But he did not smash their heads to prevent blood from spilling out. After each bird was killed, Luli would put them into his interspatial ring. They were not afraid of regular beasts, but they did not want to expose their whereabouts. 6th rank Shin beasts were highly intelligent. They could not be allowed to leave any traces. Over half of the 100 birds were killed. Only a dozen were left. Luli waved to Patriarch of Law Enforcement and said, "Let's go." Patriarch of Law Enforcement flew up. Luli let Little White out and told it to communicate with the cyan-colored birds. The more than a dozen birds flew to the north. The birds were large in size. When more than a dozen of them flew together, they could blot out the sky and cover the earth. Luli and Patriarch of Law Enforcement were hiding on the backs of the birds. Not even the powerful beasts on the ground would notice them. It would be perfect if we can fly to the territory of the 9-clawed silver dragons like this. Luli thought to himself, but clearly he was overthinking. Chapter 9:51. Oh no. Luli and Patriarch of Law Enforcement looked at each other. They had just entered the Paleobeast continent, and they were already discovered? This was not a good sign. Once the news that 2 humans had entered the Paleobeast continent was known, they would be swarmed by Paleobeasts and hunted down. Either they could defeat the Paleobeasts, or they would have to retreat in defeat. Charge! There was no time for hesitation. Luli was filled with murderous intent. The only thing he could do now was to kill the beast down there as soon as possible and then run away with Patriarch of Law Enforcement. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Whoosh! It was only a blood ape that flew up. It was not of a high rank, only a beast king. One beast king was nothing for Luli. The only thing that bothered him was that when the beast king roared, all the beasts nearby were alarmed. There were hundreds of blood apes alone. Kill them all. Patriarch of Law Enforcement shouted. He took out an iron rod and attacked the cyan-colored birds nearby. Those birds were flying in the sky. Once Patriarch of Law Enforcement and Patriarch of Law Enforcement got down, the birds might fly away. Bang, bang, bang. Patriarch of Law Enforcement swung his iron rod and crushed the heads of more than a dozen birds. Patriarch of Law Enforcement flew away. Luli waved his hands, and the feather-wind weapons flew out. The big guy on the ground was riddled with holes. Bang! The blood ape's body exploded. Luli's might spread out to suppress the beasts that were swarming over. Luli began his killing spree. There were no powerful beasts nearby. There was only one beast king. For Luli and Patriarch of Law Enforcement, it was a piece of cake. Bang, bang, bang. Luli used his feather-wind weapons to kill the beasts. Patriarch of Law Enforcement did not use any other moves. He only smashed at the beasts with his iron rod. Every time he smashed, several Shin beasts would be killed. In the time for half an incense stick to burn, there were at least 600 to 700 blood apes and thousands of Shin beasts nearby. In the time for half an incense stick to burn, Luli and Patriarch of Law Enforcement had killed them all. Patriarch of Law Enforcement was about to leave when Luli asked, "Do we need to destroy the evidence?" After all, Luli had used feather-wind weapons, which was an obvious move of profound meaning. Powerful beasts would be able to tell if they saw it. "Let me do it." The law enforcement elder took out a gourd and made a hand seal. The gourd grew bigger and flew up tilting in the air. Following that, a wave of fire emerged from the mouth of the gourd. The mountains and rivers below were instantly set ablaze, and the beasts' corpses were all burned to ashes. Go! Luli dared not to stay any longer. He and Patriarch of Law Enforcement flew toward the north like ghosts. The law enforcement elder spread out his divine sense. Once there was a group of beasts in front, he would immediately avoid them. A raging fire was ignited here, black smoke billowed up, and the earth-shattering beast roar just now had alarmed many beasts. Luli and Patriarch of Law Enforcement moved on. Soon, they ran into some swarms of beasts. That being said, they were all low-level Shin beasts. Patriarch of Law Enforcement psychic power was so strong that he could take Luli away from the Shin beasts easily. What was more, Patriarch of Law Enforcement's psychic power couldn't detect the Shin beasts at all. All right, Luli and Patriarch of Law Enforcement breathed a sigh of relief when they saw that no powerful beasts were chasing after them after hundreds of thousands of miles. The two of them no longer dared to look for flying beasts to continue their journey. After all, flying in the air was too obvious a target. Let's go, as long as they were not discovered. Given Patriarch of Law Enforcement and Luli's abilities, average Shin beasts would not be able to find them. They could sneak into the territory of the 9-clawed silver dragons, and then sneak back after they were done. Roar, roar. Luli had just left for the time for 3 incense sticks to burn when the place they set the fire was occupied by a large number of beasts. The fire here had died out, but there was still smoke lingering in many places. Countless beasts were roaring nonstop. Most of them were blood apes. Each of them was over 100 feet tall, like a small mountain. Their eyes were like copper bells, filled with rage and savagery. Those blood apes had no hair. Instead, they were covered with tiny red scales. Their tusks were long, glowing in a blue light. It was quite a frightening sight. Roar! From the distance came some thunderous roars. Then, the ground began to shake. Dozens of huge blood apes rushed over. Those blood apes were all over 1,000 feet tall. They were filled with vigor. Different from other blood apes, they had 3 eyes, but the middle one was closed. As soon as the dozens of blood apes arrived, the other blood apes and Shin beasts nearby knelt on the ground, trembling in fear. Roar, roar, the dozens of blood apes howled into the sky. Then, they all knelt on the ground and kowtowed to the north. Whoosh, whoosh, not long afterward, for rays of light came from the distance. They were as fast as lightning. If Luli and Patriarch of Law Enforcement were here, they would be surprised. 4 old men came from the north. Their appearances were identical to humans, and their sizes were similar as well. What was different was that the 4 old men all had a vertical mark between their eyebrows. It was as if there was a third eye there. When the 4 old men arrived, all the beasts were even more frightened. They all stayed close to the ground, not daring to make any noise. Even the dozens of beast kings didn't dare to look at the 4 old men. One of the 4 old men snorted and said the ancient language, the same as the ancient language of the ancient races in the Heaven Reverse universe. That old man said coldly, "How dare they slaughter in the territory of the blood apes? Who has the guts to do so? Killing our people is not a big deal. How dare they destroy the evidence? Can't we just take a look?" Another old man said coldly. Then, the vertical mark between his eyebrows slowly opened. He glanced in all directions, and a trace of astonishment quickly appeared on his calm face. He said in astonishment, "How is this possible? Humans? How can humans enter the Paleobeast realm? Have the seals on the entrances been broken? Humans?" The other 3 old men's faces were filled with shock, and they all opened their third eyes to scan their surroundings. Their third eyes seemed to be able to see what had happened in the past. They saw how Luli and Patriarch of Law Enforcement slaughtered the beasts. Soon, they were shocked. "They are humans," the elder who seemed to be the oldest among them shouted. "However, these 2 humans aren't very strong. Anyway, humans entering the Paleobeast realm is a big deal. Go back and report to our master. Then inform the entire Paleobeast realm to check all the entrances and reinforce the seals. Otherwise, once a large number of powerful humans enter the Paleobeast realm, it will be a disaster for the Paleobeasts. Brother, what about the two humans? One of the old men asked. Should we send someone to investigate? No. The old man waved his hand. We, the blood apes, are not good at tracking. The shadow bats will take action after we inform the other races. As long as they are in the Paleobeast realm, do you think they can hide from the shadow bats? Let's go. The four old men soared into the sky and flew towards the north, quickly disappearing into the vast mountain range in the distance. Only after the four elders had left did the beast kings dare to stand up. A huge three-eyed blood ape moved its mouth and spoke in the ancient language. Humans? How dare you enter the Paleobeast realm? I will not let you go back. P.S. 4 chapters. Give me some recommendation votes and monthly votes. Right, the new version of QQ Reading has a red envelope system. Please send some red envelopes to the Eternal Dragon Emperor so that the fans of QQ Reading will feel rich. Chapter 952. Lu Li and Patriarch of Law Enforcement did not know that their whereabouts had been exposed. Soon, the entire Paleobeast realm would know of their existence. They traveled through the mountains. There were too many mountains in the Paleobeast realm, and they were all barren. Lu Li didn't dare to fly. After all, they were too big a target. They had to go through the woods. The way they saw it, as long as they did not expose themselves, they could easily kill or capture 1 or 2 nine-clawed silver dragons. Then, they could return as fast as they could. It would be fine even if they alerted the Paleobeast realm, as long as they did not form an encirclement. Both of their spiritual forces were very strong, so they could easily find the most suitable path with a casual sweep along the way. The two of them advanced swiftly like 2 foxes. Although their speed was not fast, it would take them at most a month to reach the territory of the 9-clawed silver dragon, if everything went smoothly. They were in the southwest of the Paleobeast continent, while the 9-clawed silver dragon's territory was in the northwest. The Paleobeast continent was huge. The distance between them and the Earth's celestial stage was not far, and their average speed could reach the Earth's celestial stage. Even though Lu Li had not reached the Earth immortal realm yet, he had always been fast. Previously, he could already be as fast as an Earth immortal realm warrior. Now, he could reach the later stage of the Earth immortal realm if he flew at full speed. A day later, no powerful beasts approached. Patriarch of Law Enforcement thought about it and said, Lu Li, how about you cultivate in the Wicked Bead? I will take the Wicked Bead with me. I will let you know as soon as something happens. Elder of Law Enforcement was already at the soul formation level. It would be even more difficult for him to break through. He was already old, and his cultivation speed was too slow. Therefore, this amount of time meant nothing to him. But Lu Li was different. Maybe Lu Li could make some progress in a month. That's fine. Be careful, great-grandfather. Lu Li thought about it. After all, his psychic power was not as strong as Patriarch of Law Enforcement. He had been following Patriarch of Law Enforcement all the way. He might as well cultivate in the Wicked Bead rather than wasting time on the road. He had already comprehended half of the 3rd diagram. This 1 month's time was just enough for him to comprehend 2 or 3 more small diagrams. He took out the Wicked Bead and dashed in. Patriarch of Law Enforcement grabbed the Wicked Bead and hurried on to the northwest. Lu Li went to the inner hall. Kumang was in there, and ZG was in the outer hall. Lu Li used psychic power to check. ZG was sitting quietly in the corner. Lu Li paid no more attention to her. He greeted Kumang and sat down with his eyes closed. Cultivating in the inner hall of the Wicked Bead was fast. The learning speed was doubled. Lu Li was experienced in studying the line diagram. Now, there were almost no bottlenecks. He just had to follow the flow. Time flew by, and the law enforcement elder's journey was very smooth. In 6 days, he had already traveled tens of thousands of miles. Along the way, there were low-level Shin beasts and high-level Shin beasts everywhere. As long as it was a high-level beast race law enforcement elder, he would avoid it. Low-level wild beasts, or first or third-level Xian beasts didn't have to avoid it because they didn't have spiritual intelligence. Even if they saw him, he would be fine. Along the way, the law enforcement elder also saw some stone caves, which were the dwellings of the beasts. The law enforcement elder discovered many groups of beasts. For example, there were at least tens of thousands of beasts living in a huge mountain range. Luli was in cultivation. He had no idea how much time had passed. On the 10th day, Luli was suddenly woken up. A glow rose in Luli's eyes. Kamang would not wake him up for no reason. Was something wrong? He looked at Kamang and saw that the latter's expression was indeed a little ugly. Kamang said, "Sacred Lord, I've set up a few restrictions along the passage we came in. I can sense that they've been destroyed." What? A glint of coldness rose in Luli's eyes. The tunnel was so well hidden and the entrance was so small. The average powerful beast wouldn't be able to enter. If it were just some small beasts, they wouldn't be able to destroy Kumang's inhibition formations. Luli asked at once, "How strong are your inhibition formations? Can low-level Xian beasts destroy them?" "No," Kumang said solemnly. "I built 4 inhibition formations in total. One is an illusion, which is easy to crack. The other 2 are more difficult to crack. If one were to break the formation by force, they would need to be at least at the level of a beast emperor to do so. More importantly, I built a small, well-hidden inhibition formation. This inhibition formation is hard to destroy unless the cave is completely blown up. Now all 4 inhibition formations are gone." Something is wrong. Li's heart sank. He wondered if this was a coincidence. Or did some beasts discover the tunnel? If the entrance was destroyed, then it would be a disaster. They would never be able to go back to the underworld realm, to the heaven reverse universe. "Saint Lord, don't worry." Seeing how awful Luli was, Kamang comforted him. "Maybe it is just a coincidence. Some powerful Xian beasts are fighting over there. They destroyed the outside of the cave and destroyed my inhibition formations. The cave is deep. Maybe the entrance is not destroyed." Kumang's inhibition formations were not at the entrance, but on the way. If some powerful beasts were fighting outside and half of the cave was destroyed, then Kumang's inhibition formations might be destroyed as well. Of course, the odds were slim. Only 2 beast kings were fighting nearby. Along the way, Luli didn't see many Xian beasts fighting. The Paleobeast realm had been peaceful. Luli used psychic power to check. Making sure that there was nothing out of the ordinary, he dashed out from the wicked bead. Patriarch of Law Enforcement sensed Luli's psychic power. He stopped and asked, "Why did you stop cultivating?" Once again, Luli used psychic power to check the surroundings. He asked, "Great-grandpa, have you found anything along the way?" "No." Patriarch of Law Enforcement was confused. "That is normal. I ran into many beasts, but I managed to avoid them. Did you encounter any beasts fighting each other?" Luli asked again. "No." Patriarch of Law Enforcement shook his head again. The Paleobeast realm is quiet. Apart from some low-level beasts and Xian beasts, I didn't see any powerful beasts. Then something must have happened. Luli's mind was weighed down. He had a bad feeling. The entrance might have been destroyed by the beasts. Their way out was cut off. "ZG, come out." Luli took out the wicked bead and sent ZG out. He told her what happened at the passageway and asked, "Based on your judgment, is the entrance destroyed?" ZG's eyes flickered. She thought for a while and said, "Unfortunately, the blood apes must have found the entrance. It is very likely that it has been destroyed." Very likely? Even though Luli's judgment was similar, he turned pale after hearing ZG's confirmation. Destroyed? Patriarch of Law Enforcement's expressions changed. He had always been able to keep a straight face. This time, he was truly scared. Chapter 953. They had traveled so far. They could not go back. What was more, if the passageway was destroyed, going back would be pointless. If it was not destroyed, they could go back to the heaven reverse universe. Luli took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. The wicked bee glowed, and Kamang was teleported out. He asked, "Kamang, If the passageway is destroyed, do you have a way back to the heaven reverse universe? Well, Kamang was troubled. How was he supposed to go back when there was no way back? Was he supposed to break down the barriers and force his way in? He did not know such a skill. Even if he did, was it possible? Impossible. Soon, Luli thought it through. He asked ZG, are there many passageways connecting the Paleobeast realm to other universes? Are there other passageways connecting to the heaven reverse universe? ZG's eyes glowed. A moment later, she said, the passageway to the heaven reverse universe is gone, but there is one to the purgatory of primordial chaos. I heard from my mother that there is more than one. There are 2 or 3, but they are sealed. Okay, Luli was relieved. As long as there was a passageway back, there would be hope. Sealed? Kumang's inhibition formations were powerful. It would not be hard for him to break the seal. Once they entered the purgatory of primordial chaos, they could go back easily. Great-grandpa, it's okay. Luli was relieved. As long as we can enter the purgatory of primordial chaos, I can take you back to the heaven reverse universe. Luli sent Kamang and ZG back and said, if that passageway is destroyed, it means that the blood apes have discovered us or are suspicious. So, Great-grandpa, please hurry up and take down the 9-clawed silver dragon as soon as possible. Then, we can find a way back. I know. Patriarch of Law Enforcement nodded. Luli was restless. He could not cultivate in the wicked bead. He thought he might as well go with Patriarch of Law Enforcement. They could talk along the way and see if there was any other way. Great-grandpa, have you ever heard of a skill that can break down barriers between worlds? Luli asked along the way. Patriarch of Law Enforcement shook his head. That is a shocking skill. Only someone like Emperor of Heaven Reverse can do it. I have never heard of a chosen warrior with such a skill. Even if there were, it would be difficult for us. And Luli nodded and hurried on in silence. He was thinking about all kinds of situations in his mind, thinking about the worst-case scenario. He was not in a good mood. Dozens of thousands of miles later, Luli suddenly felt something was off. But when he checked with psychic power, he found nothing. He thought he had sensed wrongly and continued to run for several hundred li. He felt extremely uncomfortable. It was as if there was an eye staring at them from behind. Great-grandfather. He approached the law enforcement elder and whispered, do you feel like you're being watched? I feel that something is not right, as if something is following us from behind. The law enforcement elder was slightly startled, but he didn't stop walking. He used his divine sense to scan the area behind him. After scanning a few times, he shook his head and said, no, I don't have this feeling, and I didn't find anything special. This is strange. Patriarch of Law Enforcement's psychic power was much stronger than Luli's. Luli thought he was mistaken. However, he kept on running for dozens of miles, and the feeling was still there. He suddenly stopped and said in a low voice, something's wrong. We're definitely being followed. Everyone had a sixth sense and an instinct. Luli's instinct told him that there was something behind him. But why could he not sense it with psychic power? Could it be that this thing was invisible? Invisible? A glint of coldness rose in Luli's eyes. From the depth of his eyes came out 2 silver dragons. A surge of beast energy came out from Luli and enveloped an area with a radius of several miles. I knew it. About a kilometer behind them, 3 small black dots suddenly fell from a big tree and crawled on the ground. Luli and Patriarch of Law Enforcement checked with psychic power. Both were taken aback. Those were 3 half-transparent bats, small in size, only the size of a thumb. Since they were invisible, Luli and Patriarch of Law Enforcement did not notice them with psychic power. We have been noticed. We have been being followed. Luli and Patriarch of Law Enforcement looked at each other. Their faces were clouded. Previously, they thought the possibility of the entrance being destroyed was 90%. But now, they were 100% certain. The Paleobeast realm was aware of their arrival and had begun to set up a plan to kill them. The Paleobeast realm had cut off their escape route and sent beasts to follow them. When the bats flew, there was no ripple in space. There was no beast energy coming from them, but they were fast. No wonder Patriarch of Law Enforcement did not notice them. If Luli did not have the might of a beast god, he would not have noticed them. It was pointless to dwell on these matters. Luli forced himself to calm down and began to think of a way out. Judging from the three bats, there were many strange beasts in the Paleobeast realm. Luli and Patriarch of Law Enforcement might have to stay here forever. Previously, Luli thought that he, Patriarch of Law Enforcement, Dragon Demon, and Little White could make a clean sweep of the Paleobeast realm. But now he sensed danger. 2 million years ago, Paleobeasts dominated many universes. Even after the rise of the human race, Paleobeasts were not wiped out. This meant that Paleobeasts must have something special. Many powerful beasts had unimaginably horrifying skills. Luli said after a moment of thought, "Great-grandpa, we must capture a powerful beast king or a beast that understands human language. The enemy is in the dark while we are in the light. If we do not figure out the Paleobeast situation, we will be like two blind men. We will fall into the enemy's trap." Patriarch of Law Enforcement was an experienced man who had been through many battles in his life. Naturally, he would not lose his composure. He thought about it and said, "Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will emerge victorious." "You are right, but won't we alert the enemy? The snake is alarmed. We don't have to worry so much." Luli shook his head. If they did not figure out the situation in the Paleobeast realm, it would only get worse. They would not even know when they would fall into a trap. Okay, the law enforcement elder thought about it and agreed. The current situation was already very bad. No matter how bad it was, could it be worse than the current situation? Let's go. Luli released several strands of sword chi, which messed up the surroundings. Accidentally, the sword chi swept over the three semi-transparent bats and killed them. Then, Luli flew away. Patriarch of Law Enforcement used psychic power to check along the way. In 2 hours, they found a beast lair. Patriarch of Law Enforcement used psychic power to check and said with certainty, "There's a herd of beasts up ahead. I don't think they are strong, but there must be beast kings, at least several of them. Do you want to do it, or should I?" "Let me," Luli said after some thoughts. "Later, I will use beast energy to suppress them. Great-grandpa, you keep an eye on the outside. Don't let any beasts escape. Our whereabouts will be exposed sooner or later, but it is good to buy ourselves some time." "Sure." Chapter 954. Trees towered into the sky, thorns covered the ground, and mist was dense. Insects and beasts were lurking. This was the Paleobeast realm. Mountains and hills were everywhere. There were no roads to speak of. Luli was here. If he were not a warrior, he would not be able to move forward. Of course, this was not a problem for Luli. He moved forward like a fox. He did not even touch a leaf. His psychic power had locked onto the best route. He dashed toward a huge mountain ahead. Ahead of him was a mountain with a height of more than 100 miles. The mountain was filled with beast lairs. Looking from afar, the mountain looked like a giant beehive with caves and beast lairs everywhere. The beasts living in the mountain were strange Xian beasts. They were shaped like wolves, but had a horn on their noses. Their eyes were dark blue, and their fur was blue as well. They were beautiful. There were spikes on their knees, and their tusks were long and sharp like those of rhinos. The average beasts were not of high ranks, only of the 5th rank. But Luli could tell with psychic power that some of the beasts had turned purple and blue, indicating that they were of the 6th rank. If their fur had turned dark purple, then they would have reached the 7th rank. Woo-woo, some beasts were standing on the rocks outside the caves, howling at the moon in the sky. Their horns were glowing as if they were absorbing the essence of the sun and the moon to cultivate. Woo! The beasts were howling. Looking from a distance, Luli could see at least thousands of beasts standing on the rocks, howling at the moon. Well, there are only some beast kings. No beast gods. Luli checked for a while and then flew toward the mountain. This time, he did not hide himself. He swaggered over. Woo-woo. Luli did not disguise his energy. In a moment, he was discovered by the beasts. One beast howled, and hundreds of beasts were alarmed. Many pairs of dark blue eyes looked over. Then the beasts whooshed down. It was a shocking scene. Under the moonlight, thousands of blue shadows were coming at Luli. Average warriors would have passed out from fear. Luli's expressions didn't change at all. He flew on. Several beasts had already pounced on him. Luli shot out some Xian energy and smashed the beasts away. Whoosh, 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 more and more beasts were coming down. The beat of life in Li's abdomen glowed, and the feather wind castle came out. The castle covered an area with a radius of several miles and thousands of beasts. Woo-woo! The beasts could not withstand the soul attacks from the feather wind castle. Countless beasts began to roar. Then, many of the beasts passed out from the shock of the soul attacks. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. It was unknown how many strange beasts there were in this mountain. Above the mountain, streaks of blue light shot out in an endless stream. Soon, Luli deactivated the feather wind castle. Then, he built another feather wind castle to envelop thousands of beasts. Buzz! After the time, for a few breaths, Luli's feather wind castle vanished. The thousands of beasts that were enveloped by the castle fell to the ground like dizzy moths. Luli's feather wind castle was the cruelest when it came to armies. Even if there were hundreds of millions of armies, after he released the feather wind castle for hundreds of times, the hundreds of millions would faint. Woo, from the top of the mountain came some horrifying howls. Finally, the Beast Kings could not stand it anymore. They flew down from the peak. Those Beast Kings were strange. They were not large, only the size of an average rhinoceros. That being said, the might of the beasts was horrifying. The horns on their noses glowed. They were about to release some powerful skills. Luli snorted. His eyes glowed in silver light. An invisible surge of beast might spread out, covering an area with a radius of dozens of miles. The horns on the Beast King's noses were already glowing. Their eyes were filled with fear and confusion. The four Beast Kings were highly intelligent. That was why they were surprised. They could clearly tell that Luli was a human. How could he release the might of a beast god? How could they not be shocked and confused? Buzzing, Luli released the Feather Wind Castle and enveloped the Beast Kings. At the same time, he used the might of a beast god to suppress them. The Beast Kings could not fight back. They had to endure the soul attacks in the Feather Wind. Eventually, the four Beast Kings passed out. Whoosh! The Beast Kings were small in size. They could be taken away. Luli dashed over and put the Beast Kings into the Wicked Bead. Then, he generated many hand silhouettes to crush the beasts. He also released many feather wind weapons to kill the beasts that were trying to run away. After the time for 3 incense sticks to burn, the tens of thousands of beasts in the cave were all killed. Patriarch of Law Enforcement came back. He took out his gourd again and set the mountain on fire to burn the corpses. Let's go. Luli waved his hand and left with Patriarch of Law Enforcement. Along the way, Luli would release the might of a beast god to make sure that no bats were tailing them. Okay. Hundreds of miles later, Luli said to Patriarch of Law Enforcement, "Great-grandpa, take the wicked bead with you. I will go in and get some information." Luli went back into the wicked bead, while Patriarch of Law Enforcement moved on. Luli went to the outer hall, where ZG was. She understood the language of beasts. Luli wanted her to help him interrogate the beasts. What? Luli took out some water and splashed it on the head of a Beast King. Soon, the Beast King woke up. The might of a beast god spread out from Luli and ZG as well. The Beast King knelt on the ground in fear. Ask him if he can speak. Luli turned to ZG. Before she could say anything, the Beast King moved its mouth and said in the ancient language, "You are a human?" Well, you know the ancient language. ZG didn't have to translate anymore. Luli could understand and speak the ancient language. Using the ancient language, Luli said, "I am a human, but I am also a beast. You don't have to know the details. What is your name? What race are you?" After a moment of hesitation, the beast answered honestly. Luli's might of a beast god could not fool anyone. ZG was clearly a beast and a beast god. Also, many beast gods could transform into humans. The beast answered without hesitation, "Lord, my name is Jiaoyu. We are horned beasts." Luli turned to Ziji, who nodded. "Yes, they are horned beasts. In the ancient times, they were a powerful species. But they declined. You are Jiaoyu, right?" Luli asked again in the ancient language. "What is the ranking of the powerful species in the Paleobeast realm? How many powerful warriors do each species have?" A glint of doubt flashed across Jiaoyu's eyes. Why did Luli ask about this? Every species in the Paleobeast realm knew about this. Was Luli not in the Paleobeast realm before? "Do you think you can just say it? One more word, and I will kill you right now." Luli's might grew stronger. Jiaoyu said in a low voice, "There are 7 powerful species in the Paleobeast realm. The strongest is the 9-clawed silver dragon. The second is the ghost-faced spider. The third is the fairy fox. The fourth is the 10-winged wolf. The fifth is the 3-eyed blood ape. The sixth is the underworld Xiongqi. And the sixth is the whiphaichi." What? Both Luli and Ziji were surprised to hear this. Ziji mentioned that there were 7 major species among the Paleobeasts, but many of them did not match up. Chapter 955. The situation that Ziji was talking about was 10,000 years ago. Although she had returned once, she was discovered before she could find anything and immediately returned to the netherworld divine realm. Therefore, it was understandable that Ziji was not aware of the changes in the Paleobeast realm over the past 10,000 years. There were some changes in the 7 major beasts, but it did not make much difference to Luli. He asked, "Are there any beast gods among the 7 major beasts?" The quasi-beast god was suggested by Ziji, which was the human race's soul formation realm. If there were only beast gods in the Paleobeast realm, then Luli would not be so afraid. The dragon demon was as strong as a semi-god realm warrior. Patriarch of law enforcement was at the semi-god realm as well. Luli himself was quite strong. The average beast gods could do nothing to them. Quasi-beast god, Jiaoyu's eyes flickered for a moment before he said hesitantly, "My level is too low, so I'm not too sure. However, I heard that the Silver Dragon King broke through many years ago. That was because the Ghost Spider King had challenged him more than 1,000 years ago, but was easily suppressed by the Silver Dragon King. Rumor had it that the Silver Dragon King had broken through that step. There's also the King of Ghost-Faced Spider. 1,000 years ago, the King of Ghost-Faced Spider had already reached the peak of Beast God. 1,000 years have passed, and many beasts speculate that he has already broken through. So, 2 semi-god realm warriors? Luli was prepared for the worst. Beasts were born stronger than humans. If the Master of Silver Dragon and the Master of Ghost-Faced Spider could make the breakthrough, they would be at least at the middle stage of the semi-god realm. Luli asked more questions. He woke up the other beast kings and repeated his questions. In the end, he had some understanding of the ancient beast race. He also had some basic information on the powerful and strange divine arts of each race. He dashed out and told the law enforcement elder about the situation. The latter had a rough idea of what was going on. However, regardless of what they learned, the 2 of them still had to go to the territory of the 9-clawed silver dragon tribe in the end. Only by obtaining the 9-clawed silver dragon's origin blood essence could he think of a way to return. Now that the bats were gone, Patriarch of law enforcement pressed on while Luli went into the Wicked Bead to ask about the Paleobeast realm. He planned to master some of the strange divine skills of all the species in the Paleobeast realm. Knowing himself and knowing his enemy would help him when the time came. The more Luli learned, the more shocked he was. There were tens of thousands of beasts in the Paleobeast realm, which was a small number. There were countless low-level beasts. Tens of thousands of beasts all had their own special abilities. There were at least a few thousand beasts that had beast kings, and a few hundred beasts that had beast gods. There was something wrong with ZG's information. There were at least 1,000 beast gods in the Paleobeast realm. Bang! While Luli was asking around, the Wicked Bead began to tremble. Luli checked with psychic power at once. Patriarch of law enforcement said, "Luli, something is wrong." Buzz! Luli dashed out at once. He used psychic power to check and frowned. He had noticed something as well. Something was not right. The law enforcement elder arrived at a basin surrounded by tall mountains that reached into the clouds. It felt like he had entered the Five Fingers Mountain. Moreover, those tall mountains felt somewhat unreal. They looked somewhat ethereal, and there was also a thick white fog surrounding them. Kumang! Luli sent Kumang out and ordered, "Look around and see if there is anything wrong." What? Kumang scanned the area, not even using his divine telekinesis. After a few glances, he said, "There's an array formation here, and it's naturally formed. Retreat immediately. I can sense the aura of a powerful array formation. Let's go." Kumang was a master of formations, and Luli trusted him. Without hesitation, Luli led Kumang and Patriarch of Law Enforcement back the way they came. They wanted to leave this strange place. However, Luli and Patriarch of Law Enforcement were stunned. They flew for dozens of miles, but the towering mountains were still in the distance. It was as if they were just going around in circles. Strange formation of nature. Kumang's expression turned solemn as he scanned his surroundings with his divine sense. After a while, he explained, "We've entered a naturally formed formation, and it's already been activated. If we don't break it, we won't be able to get out." "How is that possible?" Patriarch of Law Enforcement was shocked. The surroundings were spacious, and there were gaps between the mountains. Couldn't they just fly out? Patriarch of Law Enforcement did not believe it. He flew up toward the two towering mountains in the distance. However, after flying for dozens of miles, he felt the mountains were still in the distance. It was as if he was going around in circles. Patriarch of Law Enforcement checked with psychic power, only to find that Luli was still there. He had flown for dozens of miles. How could Luli and Kumang still be there? Patriarch of Law Enforcement flew down and asked Luli, "Have you been standing here?" "Yes." Luli forced a smile and said, "Great-grandpa, you have been going around in circles. Didn't you feel it?" "No. I feel like I've been flying in a straight line." Patriarch of Law Enforcement was taken aback. This was the first time he had seen such a miraculous formation. He thought about it and asked Kumang, "Can't we just blast open the ground and attack our way through?" "If it is that easy, then it wouldn't be called a natural formation." Kumang forced a smile. A dim yellow glow rose in his eyes as he began to observe the surroundings. Patriarch of Law Enforcement and Luli did not know much about inhibition formations. They had to wait for Kumang to finish his inspection. Time ticked by, and after a full hour, Kumang opened his eyes and sighed helplessly. "Holy Lord, Enforcement Elder, Kumang will have to disappoint you this time. This natural formation is formed naturally, and it is a very powerful one. The Paleobeasts have powerful inhibition formations that they know. They are reinforcing the formation. I cannot crack it. At least, I cannot crack it anytime soon, unless I have a few years to study it." A few years? Luli and Patriarch of Law Enforcement's hearts were weighed down. In a few years, powerful warriors of the 9 universes would come to the Heaven Reverse universe. Would the major races of the Paleobeast realm give them time? He reckoned that it wouldn't be long before the experts of the 7 major clans swarmed over. Right? Dragon Demon. Luli's eyebrows glowed. A shadow came out. It was the huge Dragon Demon. Luli said to the Dragon Demon, "Do you see that mountain? Go and destroy that mountain." The Dragon Demon was not intelligent enough to carry out Luli's orders strictly. Maybe the Dragon Demon could reach the mountain in the distance without being affected by the formation. As long as the mountain was destroyed, the formation would be cracked. As a matter of fact, Luli was overthinking. The Dragon Demon dashed away. However, after 3 miles, the Dragon Demon took a detour and came back. "This is strange." Luli was speechless. This natural formation could even affect the Dragon Demon, which was not intelligent, not to mention Luli and Luli. They would not be able to leave this formation. Wicked Bead. Chapter 956. Buzzing. Luli dashed into the wicked bead, taking everyone with him. Then, he flew the wicked bead in a straight line. He did not mind the wicked bead at all. As far as Luli could tell, the reason why they could not get out was that the formation had affected their souls and misled them. That was why they were circling around involuntarily. Even though the dragon demon was not intelligent, it had a soul and could still be affected. The wicked bead was a lifeless object without a soul and a relic. As far as Luli was concerned, the wicked bead could not be affected. As a matter of fact, he was overthinking. The wicked bead flew for the time for half an incense stick to burn. When Luli checked with psychic power, he realized that the wicked bead was still circling around. How is this possible? Luli teleported out with Kamang and Patriarch of Law Enforcement. Looking at the familiar mountain in the distance, Luli's face turned gloomy. Not even a wicked bead could fly out. Nothing is impossible. Kamang sighed. He seemed to have figured out where the problem lay. Gazing into the sky, he said, "This formation is not affecting people's souls. Instead, it is controlling the space nearby. When we are not aware of it, the space is changing. That is why we have been circling around." Luli and Patriarch of Law Enforcement looked at each other. They agreed that Kamang's speculation was reasonable. If the space was changing by itself, they would be circling around without knowing it. "Let me try again." Patriarch of Law Enforcement flew out. A dark iron rod appeared in his hand. He mobilized Xian energy and wielded the iron rod. The iron rod grew larger and larger. Every time he wielded it, Xian energy in heaven and earth would gather. Ninth rank, profound meaning. To reach the semi-god realm, one must learn a ninth rank, profound meaning. Clearly, Patriarch of Law Enforcement was going to use a ninth rank, profound meaning to see if he could crack the formation by force. What? As Patriarch of Law Enforcement waved the iron rod, the sky suddenly darkened at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was not as dark as when night fell. Luli and the others were powerful enough to see clearly even when it was pitch dark. However, Luli realized that he could not see anything. It was as if his soul was confined in a completely dark and enclosed space. Dark, profound meaning. Luli was taken aback. He had never seen Patriarch of Law Enforcement use a ninth rank, profound meaning. He didn't expect it to be so horrifying. If Patriarch of Law Enforcement were to attack him now, he would not even know how he died unless he went back to the wicked bead at once. Kamang was naturally shocked. His body trembled, but he calmed down when he remembered that it was the profound meaning released by the law enforcement elder. Chi. All of a sudden, heaven and earth trembled. A surge of energy that could destroy heaven and earth spread out. Luli and the others noticed that the sky was getting brighter, as if all the dark elements were being drawn out to form a horrifying skill. The dark elements had indeed been transferred. The iron rod in Patriarch's hand, which had reached a length of 1,000 feet, was completely shrouded by the black mist, and his iron rod suddenly enlarged by several times. He swung the big black stick that was as big as a giant pillar and struck it forward. Rip! The space in front of him trembled, and a 10-feet-long spatial crack appeared. A terrifying wave of air radiated out to both sides. It felt as if the rod had smashed into a calm lake, causing the waves to roll to both sides. That is horrifying. Luli had seen ninth rank, profound meanings before. Back when he was hunted down by many semi-god realm warriors, they used many ninth rank, profound meanings to attack the wicked bead. However, he was in the wicked bead back then, so he did not feel it so clearly. At the moment, he was shocked to the core, and his blood was tumbling. Boom, boom, boom. Space cracked, but recovered quickly. Patriarch of Law Enforcement's attack was fading away in a speed visible to the naked eye. Luli took a look and sighed. This is indeed a spatial formation. The space here must be confined. Great-grandpa's attack cannot break down the spatial barriers. This formation cannot be cracked by brute force. Whoosh! Patriarch of Law Enforcement stepped back. He shook his head as well. The space outside is confined. No energy can be sent out. We are in big trouble. Let me have a try. Kamang made up his mind. Let me see if I can crack the formation with another formation. If I cannot, I will not be able to do anything for the time being. Okay. Li's eyes glowed. Last time at the Valley of Feather, Kamang tried to crack the formation with another formation. He and the Deacon Elder stood on the side. Kamang took out a lot of formation stones and started setting them up. After half an hour, he let out a long sigh and said, "Start the formation." He poured out some Xian energy. The ground was suffused with a thick white mist. This formation was the same as the one outside the Valley of Feather. It was an ancient formation that Kamang had learned. Swish, swish, the white mist grew thicker and thicker. In the end, several white dragons whooshed up. Li and Patriarch of Law Enforcement held their breaths and stared at the white dragons. If the white dragons could break through the space nearby, then the formation could collapse. 500 feet, 1,000 feet. The 8 white dragons hovered up. However, at the height of 1,000 feet, they began to slow down as if some invisible force was stopping them from going up. PFF. A glow rose in Kamang's eyes. He spat out some blood and then poured out some more Xian energy. The 8 white dragons sped up again. Soon, they reached 1,500 feet. However, at 1,500 feet, the white dragons slowed down again. Kamang's face was pale, and he was trembling. He made up his mind and spat out some more blood. The white dragons sped up again. Li and Patriarch of Law Enforcement stared at the 2 white dragons, hoping for a miracle. However, when the white dragons reached 1,800 feet, Kamang spat out blood and fell to the ground. He rolled his eyes and passed out. Bang, 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 bang. The 8 white dragons on it all exploded at this moment and turned into nothingness. Li squatted down next to Kamang to check. Li was relieved to see that Kamang was fine and had only used up too much energy. I don't think we can get out anytime soon. Patriarch of Law Enforcement looked at Kamang and then at Li with a bitter smile. Li fed Kamang a healing pellet and put him into the inner hall. Li stood up and sighed. There is no other way. We have to go into the wicked bead and wait for our enemies. Great-grandpa, don't worry. Li turned to the wicked bead and said with confidence, "This bead of mine is a relic. Dozens of semi-god realm warriors tried to crack it for a long time, but failed. The Palea beasts will not be able to crack it anytime soon. When our enemies show up and the battle begins, we may be able to get out." Chapter 9:57. The wicked bead shrank to the size of a thumb. Instead of floating in the air, the wicked bead lay quietly in the grass like a stone. There was no glow on the wicked bead. If one did not look carefully, one would think it was just a stone. Li told Patriarch of Law Enforcement and Kamang to cultivate and rest in the wicked bead and not to worry about anything else until the Palea beast showed up. ZG and the Beast King stayed in the outer hall. Even though her inner core was destroyed, she had the might of a beast god. The 3 Beast Kings did not dare to offend her. Li didn't want to worry about her, either. Li went back to cultivation. He wanted to finish the 3rd line diagram as soon as possible. Now, Li had learned 9 small parts of the 3rd diagram. In about 2 months, he would be able to master the big diagram completely. By then, not only could Li learn a new profound meaning, but he could also try to reach the Earth Immortal Realm. At first, Li was a bit agitated, but after 2 days of cultivation, he calmed down. Anyway, this was the situation. It was pointless to dwell on it. He might as well focus on cultivation and deal with the situation as it came. Time moved on. Beasts began to gather outside the basin where Li was. From the horizon, flocks of beasts were swarming over. There were flying Xian beasts covering the sky and covering the earth. When these mystical Xian beasts arrived outside the basin, they all stopped in their tracks and gathered together. The Xian beasts that used to be violent and cruel didn't cause any commotion. They gathered outside quietly, waiting in silence. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 5 days. Millions of Xian beasts had gathered around the basin. Those that could be here were at least of the 6th rank. In other words, there were millions of sixth-rank Xian beasts here. In comparison to the realm of humans, there were hundreds of noble Lord Realm warriors here. The number of beasts was still increasing. There was no telling when the number would end. 10 days later, outside the basin, an area with a radius of 30 miles was filled with Xian beasts. There was no end in sight. Every piece of land was filled with beasts of all shapes and sizes. Moreover, all kinds of beasts were gathered together in an orderly manner, which made it seem especially strange and frightening. It had been 10 days, but the beast horde had not attacked. There were many beast kings in the beast horde, but no beast gods had appeared. After another 8 days, the number of beasts had increased to an uncountable number. The area within a radius of 200 miles was densely packed with beasts. The ferocious might of these beasts was enough to scare a cowardly martial artist to death. Whoosh, whoosh, as the sun set in the west. A piercing sound suddenly came from the north. Then, a black shadow came whistling over from the north. It was just a small dot, but the beasts immediately became restless. All the flying beasts in the sky descended while the rest of the beasts prostrated themselves on the ground. They looked like rice paddies blown by the wind. It was a beautiful sight. Closer, closer. The black dot on the other side kept getting bigger. It was a group of strange humans. There were at least 30 of them, and all of them were in human form. There were old and young people, men and women in this group. Some of them were handsome, while others were ugly. Their faces were full of flesh and looked terrifying. It was evident that the 4 of them were the leaders of this group. Everyone else was surrounding the 4 of them and kept a distance from them. They did not dare to get too close so as to highlight the status of the 4 of them. In terms of energy, the 4 of them were more terrifying than those behind them. The first of the 4 was a middle-aged man in a silver robe. He looked just like a human except for the 2 small horns on his head, and his eyes glowed with silver light. He was expressionless, but he raised his head slightly. He did not look at the beast down below, looking very arrogant. Next to the man in the silver robe was a charming lady. She looked very young and even prettier than ZG. More importantly, she had a pair of foxy eyes, which were as seductive as Jiang Qiling. She wore a very revealing red battle armor, and her short skirt only covered her plump buttocks, revealing 2 snow-white thighs. She was also wearing soft armor on her upper body. Her chest was open, revealing a patch of snow-white skin. Her lower abdomen was also exposed, and there was an obvious waistline. Her sparkling and translucent skin made the eyes of many men behind her burn with desire. Next to the red-armored lady was an old man in a black robe. Half of the old man's face was covered, but the small part that was exposed had strange tattoos. The tattoos covered his entire face, which was quite scary. The last one was a strong man with red hair. He had a ferocious face and a strong body. His eyes were filled with ferocity. One look, and anyone could tell that he was a violent man. Usually, people would not dare to look him in the eye. There was a vertical mark between his eyebrows. He was the beast god of the 3-eyed blood ape. The 4 of them flew to the outside of the basin and stopped, floating in the air. Then came the roars of beasts. All the Xian beasts roared to the sky and then knelt down on the ground again. In their eyes, there was awe as if the people above them were their kings, their masters. How is it? The horned man in the silver robe was the first to speak. A short man walked out and reported, "Mr. A.O. Ding, the 2 humans have been trapped in the formation. Though they tried to break out, they couldn't. They're stuck inside. Hee hee." The red-armored lady stuck her tongue out and said with an enchanting grin, "This formation is a miraculous one, and it has been enhanced by the tortoise race. Not even the family patriarch of the Yin family of the divine imperial universe can get out, let alone 2 average humans." "Foxy, don't be so sure." A.O. Ding waved his hand. "I heard that the Yin family patriarch is half an immortal, and he has horrifying skills. If it is him, he might be able to crack the formation. Underestimating the enemy is a taboo." "Where are the 2 humans from?" the red-haired man asked. "Are they really warriors of the 9 universes? Are they going to wipe out the paleo beasts?" "I don't care where they are from. The tattoo-faced old man in a black robe snorted. If the humans of the 9 universes want to kill every last one of us, then we will fight to the death. Even if the Paleobeasts are wiped out, we will turn the 9 universes into rivers of blood and mountains of corpses. Cielu. The red-haired man seemed to hold a grudge against the tattoo-faced old man. The former sneered, "Ghost-faced spiders are so powerful. Why don't you go to the divine imperial universe and wipe out the Yin family to avenge the Paleobeasts?" The tattoo-faced old man threw the red-haired man a cold look and said, 16 of ape. I don't know if the ghost-faced spiders can wipe out the Yin family, but I'm sure we can wipe out the blood apes. You could try if you're not convinced. Enough. Ao Ding's face showed a hint of anger as he shouted. The old man and the red-haired man did not dare to say anything more. Chapter 958. As soon as Ao Ding gave the order, the beasts sprang into action. Roar, roar, some of the beasts from all directions were mobilized. The Beast King led the team into the basin. Soon, they entered the basin and dashed toward the wicked bead. Let's go. Ao Ding waved his hand and led dozens of people to the towering peaks in front of them. They arrived at the peak of a tall mountain, and as they stood there, they looked into the basin with their eyes and spiritual will. The basin was vast, with a radius of at least 300 miles. The mist was shrouding the basin, so they could not see clearly. They could only see many beasts swarming in from the distance. What? Many beasts dashed in, but there was no battle. There were no roars or explosions. Bones of tortoise. What is going on? Ao Ding turned to the short man, who was the clan leader of the tortoise race. Bones of Tortoise was the one who activated the formation. Ao Ding thought that Lu Li and the human warrior had run away since there was no battle. Anger rose in Ao Ding's eyes. Bones of Tortoise frowned. He bowed and said, Lord Ao Ding, I swear on my life that the 2 humans did not run away. I am in control of the formation. I will know if someone has run away. Ao Ding felt better. He waved his hand and said, send someone in and have a look. Bones of Tortoise waved his hand. A person shorter than him flew into the basin and soon disappeared into the thick mist. Since they could not see into the basin, Ao Ding did not give the order. They had to wait outside. The formation had been activated and could not be turned off easily. Beasts were everywhere, and there were many of them. Still, it was better to be careful. Boom, boom, boom. Not long afterward, there was a loud noise of explosion in the basin. But it lasted for a moment before everything quieted down. After the time for 2 incense sticks to burn, Bones of Tortoise's subordinate came back and reported, Lord Ao Ding, clan leader, my lords, the 2 humans must have entered a powerful interspatial artifact. Average beasts cannot find out. I sensed some energy fluctuations in the interspatial artifact, but I could not crack it open. Interspatial artifact? Even you cannot crack it? Everyone's eyes brightened. The ancient beasts did not know how to forge artifacts. They did have many powerful natural treasures in the ancient times, but many of them had been stolen later on. That was why all the beasts' eyes lit up at the mention of treasures. Among the Paleobeasts, only beast gods could transform. Bones of Tortoise's subordinate wasn't very powerful, but he was still a beast god. It was actually unable to break a spatial treasure. This treasure was definitely a priceless treasure. Foxy smiled sweetly and said, Brother Ao Ding, why don't I bring some people in to give it a try? As soon as Foxy spoke, everyone's eyes darkened. It was obvious that Foxy wanted to steal the treasure. Although Foxy's strongest skill was seduction, her combat power was not weak. If she brought people in, the treasure would be hers. Ao Ding thought for a moment and said, All right, Fox Princess, bring some in to check it out. If there is any danger, send us a message immediately. We cannot close the formation now, so be careful. Ao Ding was very careful. After all, this was the first time in so many years that humans had entered. He had to capture the 2 humans and interrogate them for information. If the humans of the 9 realms were preparing to invade the Paleobeast realm, they would be prepared. Let's go. Foxy waved her hand. Together with a lady and 4 or 5 men, they flew down. Soon, they passed through the haze and entered the basin. They were all beast gods, so they could move fast. They arrived in the time for dozens of breaths. Their psychic power locked onto a bead in the middle of the basin. There were many kinds of beasts nearby. They knelt on the ground with respect when they arrived. Foxy waved her hand. The beasts swarmed to all sides and settled down in a corner not far away. The formation was activated. As long as it was not closed, there was no way out. Therefore, the beasts had to settle down nearby, or else they would come back again. It really is a treasure. Foxy squinted. Her psychic power was strong. Fairy foxes were born with strong souls. However, she could not pierce into the wicked bead. She could not even sense any energy fluctuations in the wicked bead. The more she thought about it, the more powerful the wicked bead was. Attack! Foxy winked at the 2 strong men who dashed over. They swung their golden fists and punched at the wicked bead. Swish! Their fists were surrounded by golden airflow. The horrifying airflow created a pit on the ground. However, apart from a slight glow, the wicked bead did not tremble at all. It floated above the pit, mysterious and strange. Foxy opened her cherry lips. Her breasts were trembling. Her cheeks were blushing. She was thrilled. 2 beast gods could not make the wicked bead tremble even once. Was the bead a relic? How else could it be so powerful? Keep going, Foxy ordered. She waved to the other 2. The 4 of them formed a circle and kept on attacking. Foxy did not take any action. She kept her eyes on the wicked bead. She was so nervous that she was short of breath. She hoped that the wicked bead could be cracked open right away. Otherwise, when Ao Ding and the others arrived, the bead would not belong to her. Boom, boom, boom. The 4 beast gods kept on attacking. All of them were using long-range attacks, or else they could not do it at the same time. The ground under the wicked bead had become a pit. The sound of explosions lingered on. Dust billowed up, covering the sky. 5 beast gods. 2 of them should be fairy foxes. Luli had stopped cultivating for a long time. When Bones of Tortoise's warriors were attacking the wicked bead, Luli had sensed it. But he did not come out rashly. Instead, he had been sensing through the wicked bead. Killing those beasts was pointless. What Luli needed was to get out of the formation. Otherwise, if he was trapped in there for a few years, when warriors of the 9 universes came to the Heaven Reverse universe, all would perish. Luli, how is it going? Patriarch of Law Enforcement had woken up a while ago. He did not know what was going on outside. He only knew something was going on since Luli was nervous. 5 beast gods are coming, Luli explained. Then, he added, there should be more beast gods outside and the ones controlling the formation. So let's not be hasty. Let them attack for a while and find the right time. Just get ready. Okay. Patriarch of Law Enforcement took out his iron rod. He was ready to fight at any time. A moment later, he asked, how long can your bead last? Luli smiled and said, even if there were 1,000 beast gods and they attacked for 100 years, my bead would not be broken, let alone a few. That's strong? Chapter 9:59. Boom, boom, boom. Foxy and the others had been waiting for almost an hour. Apart from the glow, the wicked bead did not move one bit. There was a deep pit under the wicked bead, just like what happened to the north of the city of Lung. Foxy waited for a moment before joining the fray. The 5 beast deities continued to attack, but there was no progress. Foxy was a little anxious, but she knew it was useless to be anxious. Unable to break the bead, she could only attack desperately, hoping that Ao Ding and the others would come later. She was thinking too much. 2 hours later, a group of people arrived. Ao Ding had brought the rest of the beast gods. Ao Ding was not an idiot. Foxy and several beast gods had been attacking for a long time, and yet they could not crack the wicked bead. This meant that the pearl was a very powerful treasure. If it was just a normal treasure, it would have been fine for Foxy, but a powerful treasure had to belong to the 9-clawed silver dragon clan. Good stuff. As soon as Ao Ding came in, he stared at the wicked bead. His silver eyes were filled with passion. He saw that Foxy and the others were attacking it continuously, but the bead did not move at all. He was shocked. He wasn't someone who didn't know what was good and what was bad. He could easily tell that even if this bead wasn't a divine artifact, it wasn't far from it. So many beast deities came in. Luli sensed the arrival of Ao, Ding, and the others through the wicked bead. Still, he was not in a hurry to take action. He was waiting to see if more powerful warriors would come. The most important thing was to wait for the divine formation to close. Killing the beast god was not important. The most important thing was to escape from here. Attack! Ao Ding waved his hand. The more than 30 beast gods flew out and surrounded the wicked bead from all sides. All of them began to attack. Their attack power isn't that strong. Luli checked the consumption of energy in the wicked bead. None of the beasts were using powerful attacks. They were only using long-range attacks. What was more, the beasts were born to have special skills. Luli waited for a moment to make sure that no powerful beasts came in. He told Patriarch of Law Enforcement about the situation outside and sighed. I did not control the wicked bead, but I can tell that the formation of space is still open. The other party is very careful. They won't let us escape so easily. Great-grandfather, what do you think we should do? The law enforcement elder thought for a moment and said, let's first test whether the grand formation is closed or not. If it wasn't closed, he would attack the group of beast gods and capture some of them, so that they could think of a way to open the formation. Since they dared to come in so easily, they must have a way out. All right, Luli decided not to wait. Even if there were powerful warriors, they wouldn't come in for a while. Once Luli attacked the group, the powerful warriors hiding outside would come in. Let's take down a few beast deities first. Luli targeted several weaker beast gods. Those beast gods could only be as powerful as Earth Immortal Realm warriors. He told the law enforcement elder, Great-grandfather, when I let you go out later, you must immediately capture the people outside and bring them back. Patriarch of Law Enforcement nodded. Luli moved the wicked bead and smashed at a beast god that was weaker than the others. Xiao, the wicked bead suddenly enlarged. At full speed, it could travel as fast as a semi-god realm warrior. The wicked bead reached the beast god in an instant and smashed him away. The wicked bead had been motionless. However, it suddenly moved and enlarged. The beast gods were stunned. Luli whooshed out dragons of wind. The beast god outside was weak. He was enveloped by the feather wind and screamed miserably in midair. Great-grandpa, Luli shouted. Patriarch of Law Enforcement dashed out. He grabbed the beast god's neck and punched at the beast god's head with his other hand. The beast god was seeing stars, and his head was bleeding. Buzzing, the wicked bead glowed. Patriarch of Law Enforcement dragged the beast god into the wicked bead. All of this happened within the time for one breath. The dozens of beast gods outside did not even have the time to react. Ao Ding snorted angrily. Although the captured beast god was weak, the fact that a human could capture his subordinate in front of him without any scruples had undoubtedly infuriated him. Roar, Ao Ding bellowed. He transformed into his original form, a silver dragon with a length of nearly 1,000 feet. The silver dragon had 9 claws and 2 wings. It was so intimidating that the beasts nearby, including many beast gods, found it hard to breathe. Whoosh! Ao Ding flew over and smashed at the wicked bead with his huge tail. Space was trembling. At the same time, the horns on his head glowed. 2 streaks of silver thunderbolts were shot at the wicked bead. Phew, phew, the 9-clawed silver dragon opened its mouth and breathed out a silver airstream. As soon as the airstream came out, the space nearby froze. The silver airstream swept across, trying to envelop the wicked bead. Ao Ding had used 3 powerful attacks at once. 2 of them were the special skills of the 9-clawed silver dragon. Many beast gods were frightened by the lightning and the silver airstream. Those 2 skills were nightmares for many beasts. Buzzing. What shocked the beasts was that the wicked bead merely glowed when the 3 attacks landed on it. There was no tremble, let alone being smashed away. Relic, definitely a relic. Ao Ding and many other beasts were thrilled. Ao Ding's 3 attacks could kill average beast gods easily. However, the wicked bead could not budge one bit. The bead must be a relic. 9-clawed silver dragon. Luli used psychic power to check the beast. At the moment, he even had the urge to go out and take a look. He could not sense the energy of a 9-clawed silver dragon. Therefore, he was not sure if the origin blood essence of the 9-clawed silver dragon could help him awaken new bloodline skills. No hurry. I need to catch more beast gods. Luli flew the wicked bead to the distance. He was aiming at several beast gods. He flew the wicked bead over. Ao Ding could not attack as well. That would hurt those beast deities. Whoosh! The wicked bead was among 4 or 5 beast gods. As expected, Ao Ding did not dare to attack. Luli smashed at a beast god. Feather wind enveloped the beast god. Great-grandpa! The beast god inside the wicked bead had been knocked out by Luli's feather wind. Luli asked Patriarch of Law Enforcement to go out again. However, as soon as Patriarch of Law Enforcement left the wicked bead, the beast gods came to their senses. Ao Ding, in particular, bellowed. His horns glowed. 2 thunderbolts whooshed across the sky, trying to kill Patriarch of Law Enforcement. Patriarch of Law Enforcement smiled with pride. His body glowed as a golden mystic armor appeared. He was ready to fend off the attacks from Ao Ding and another beast god. Patriarch of Law Enforcement reached out to the beast god covered in feather wind. Ao Ding's thunderbolts and the other beast god's dark glare landed on Patriarch of Law Enforcement. However, Patriarch of Law Enforcement trembled a bit. He calmly punched the beast god's head and dragged the beast god into the wicked bead. Well, semi-god realm? Ao Ding and the rest of the beast gods were shocked. One of the beast gods ordered Bones of Tortoise shut down the divine formation. This is a semi-god realm cultivator. We can't stop him. Run or we'll all die. The formation is going to be turned off? Luli was delighted. Once the formation was turned on, he could run away easily. Without the formation, who could stop him in the Paleobeast realm? No. However, Ao Ding's shout made Luli's heart sink. Ao Ding yelled, "We cannot let them out. Send a message to our masters and ask them to come and help. This bead is a relic. Once they get out, not even our masters can stop them." Chapter 960. Bones of Tortoise wanted to shut down the formation and retreat, but he stopped after Ao Ding shouted at him. The 9-clawed silver dragon had always been the overlord of the Paleobeast realm. No other species dared to fight against the 9-clawed silver dragon. Throughout history, all the species that dared to fight against the 9-clawed silver dragon were wiped out. The 9-clawed silver dragon had been the overlord since ancient times. Ao Ding, Xiaolu, Foxy, and the others took out a piece of shell engraved with mysterious patterns and crushed it. At the same time, some powerful warriors did the same. They had informed their masters and other powerful warriors. If it were just average human warriors, the beasts would not be so concerned. But it was a different story when there was a semi-god realm human. Semi-god realm warriors could defeat many beast gods. Just now, Ao Ding and the other beast god attacked at the same time, but Patriarch of Law Enforcement was not harmed at all. If Patriarch of Law Enforcement was allowed to go out, he could wipe out all the Paleobeasts. That would be a catastrophe for the Paleobeasts. Bones of Tortoise? Luli used the psychic power to see a short beast god. From the conversation between Ao Ding and the other beast god, Luli learned that Bones of Tortoise was the beast god controlling the formation. Whoosh! The wicked bead whooshed on toward Bones of Tortoise. Luli's intention was clear. He wanted to take down Bones of Tortoise so that he could break the formation and escape. Stop him. Protect Bones of Tortoise. Ao Ding saw through Luli's intention. He shouted. He wriggled his huge body and swung his tail at the wicked bead. The dragon's tail landed heavily on the wicked bead. Ow! 16 of 8 bellowed into the sky. His robe was torn apart. He was growing at a speed visible to the naked eye. A surge of violence spread out. Eventually, he became a blood ape with a height of 1,000 feet. "Take bones of tortoise with you." The ape bellowed and stomped on the ground. He leaped up and dashed toward the wicked bead. Bang! The huge tail landed on the wicked bead. The wicked bead did not tremble at all. Instead, the tail bounced off. The wicked bead was coming. 16 of Ape's arms glowed in red as he slapped at the wicked bead from both sides. However, the wicked bead was filled with energy. How could a beast king's attack crack it? Whoosh! The wicked bead flew on. The force was unstoppable. 16 of Ape was smashed into. He grabbed the wicked bead with both hands. Eventually, he turned around and was carried away by the wicked bead. A huge round ball with a radius of 1,000 feet was flying at high speed, and behind it was a beast emperor that was nearly 1,000 feet tall. It looked very strange, but also very humorous. Bones of Tortoise was taken away by a black wolf with 10 black wings on its back. The black wolf was fast. As soon as the wicked bead arrived, the wolf had dashed to the other side with Bones of Tortoise. There was a 100-kilometer radius where one could move freely. Once they left this 100-kilometer radius, they would automatically return. An area with a radius of 30 miles might seem wide, but for powerful warriors, it could be covered in the time for a few breaths. The wicked bead was even faster. In the time for 3 to 4 breaths, the wicked bead could cover the distance. Therefore, the 10-winged black wolf kept its eyes on the wicked bead, ready to run away with Bones of Tortoise at any time. Luli flew the wicked bead back, but the 10-winged black wolf dashed to the other side. "Oomph!" Luli snorted. Making sure that there were no mythical beasts lurking nearby, Luli decided to exert his full strength. Bones of Tortoise must be taken down. This was the only chance they had. Otherwise, they would be trapped here forever. Even if they were lucky enough to escape, it would take years. Therefore, Luli said to Patriarch of Law Enforcement, "Great-Grandpa, let's go out together. You deal with the first wave, and I will build the Featherwind Castle. Let's find a way to take down Bones of Tortoise." Patriarch of Law Enforcement thought about it and said, "How about we use the Dragon Demon to suppress him directly? Let's not use the Dragon Demon first." Luli shook his head. "This is our trump card. What if the Paleo beasts have mythical beasts? We still have a chance to turn the tables." Bones of Tortoise was not strong, and the Featherwind Castle could deal with him easily. Luli did not want to expose the Dragon Demon. Patriarch of Law Enforcement thought about it. The golden mystic armor emerged. His mystic armor was at the 8th rank, but after reaching the semi-god realm, it had evolved to the 9th rank, which greatly enhanced its defensive abilities. Whoosh! The wicked bead flew away. Instead of going toward Bones of Tortoise, the wicked bead flew to another direction. When Ao Ding thought that Luli was going to capture the other beast gods, the wicked bead was 30 miles away. Space was reversed, and the wicked bead turned around. Soon, the wicked bead was close to Bones of Tortoise. Buzzing, Patriarch of Law Enforcement dashed out. He swung the iron rod in his hand like crazy. The space around him was plunged into darkness. This was not just darkness, but absolute darkness. Two beast kings could not see each other, even when they were close to each other. Okay, Luli dashed out and built the Featherwind Castle at once. He expanded the castle to the extreme, covering an area with a radius of 30 miles. Bones of Tortoise and the other beast gods were all inside. Roar, woo-woo, hiss, hiss. Many beast gods cried out in pain. The soul attacks in the Featherwind Castle were strong. Not even Earth Immortal Realm warriors could stand it. Not even the Asmodean Lord could. How could the beast god stand it? What surprised Luli was that Ao, Ding, and Foxy were able to stand it. Another girl from the Fairy Fox race was able to stand it as well. The Fairy Fox race relied mainly on seduction skills. Their souls were strong, which was understandable. Why was the 9-clawed silver dragon so strong? Origin Blood Essence. When Luli used psychic power to check Ao Ding's huge body, he trembled. He found 2 drops of Origin Blood Essence in Ao Ding's heart. The origin blood essence resonated with his bloodline. His blood was tumbling. The silver dragon bloodline in his bead of life and core of soul was swimming. He was clearly excited. Good. Luli stopped using psychic power. He was thrilled. He wished he could go and kill A.O. Ding right now and consume his origin blood essence. That being said, Bones of Tortoise was the key. Luli used psychic power to check Bones of Tortoise, who was rolling on the ground, and shouted, "Great Grandpa! Hang in there!" Roar, A.O. Ding cried into the sky. He waved his tail and claws, shattering the feather wind rooms nearby. Foxy, use the enchantment now. All right. Foxy gritted her teeth and waved her hands. Her body shone brightly, and the black fog around her dissipated. Everyone subconsciously looked at Foxy. Enchantment? Luli was surprised. Didn't Bai Qiushua learn the enchantment? The enchantment was a skill of the hag race. How would the fairy foxes know it? Is the hag race a hybrid between the fairy foxes and humans? Luli had this idea. Then, he was able to confirm it. After all, the ancient races were hybrids between paleo beasts and humans. This had been proven. What level is her enchantment at? If it is the 3rd level, then I will be in trouble. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.